back.
McDavid trying to come in with speed. Here he comes. McDavid shoots. Top shelf. He scores! The Oilers captain with the overtime winner.
The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Pretty good contact here as he hits it to deep right, and he's hit it out. Now that's a birthday present that George Springer just gave himself, and the Blue Jays have the early lead.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Howe slinging it to the end zone. Was it caught? Yes! McLaurin, touchdown!
A positive Friday. How are you? Welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, coming to you live also on Oilers Nation YouTube. Check out the channel. You can watch the show, get involved. It's pretty easy. Have a lot of fun. Also, before 6 o'clock today, give away some tickets. Goes to the Oil game on Sunday. First little preseason game for diehards. You always want to see what's happening. It's not televised, so it's your opportunity to watch the game. Good lower bowl seats. So we'll be doing that. But we're doing that. We're giving that away today on our YouTube channel. You need to subscribe. So go to Oilers Nation YouTube. It's pretty simple. You'll see it. And then subscribe. And away you go. And we'll pick a lucky subscriber to be going to the game on Sunday. We have a loaded show for you. As always, you can get involved. You can text us 833-401-1440. You can send an email, Gregor at sports1440.ca, Connor at sports1440.ca. The show is always presented by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca. And there's lots going on at the PlayAlberta.ca. Of course, if you're just feeling lucky, very simple. They have the Lotto Max Friday draw. And 20 schmil. Not bad. Not bad at all. And how about this, man? There's 2 goal ball draws remaining, like 66 mil. That's for Saturdays. 649. 66. That's almost too much. I want to split it. Well, maybe not too much, but you know what I mean. Might be overwhelming at times. So day 2 of Oilers training camp. We'll get to that on the show today. Also, we will hear from Kirt Hill, the GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings. Their season begins tomorrow. Well, sorry, at home. Tonight they're on the road, but tomorrow is their home opener. So you can enjoy that. Probably have some tickets to send you to that game. Also, Lorianne Munzer will join us at 3 o'clock. Brent Wallace, as we continue our previews, will stop in Ottawa. It's official. Mr. Anlauer is the new owner. Steve Stales, no surprise, has been talked about for a while. He's now in the Ottawa organization. Lowetide will be by. Spec Luke Wilson, former NFL tight end, now analyst on TSN, will be by. Wanye Gretz will join me in studio at 4 o'clock. We have the 2-minute warning with Cam Tate coming up later on this hour. Lots and lots to discuss. Of course, big weekend. Second last weekend in Major League Baseball. And the Jays, they're right in the mix, man. They're taking on Tampa Bay this weekend. And meanwhile, the 2 teams they are battling in the wild card, Seattle and Texas, will go head-to-head. So if the Jays win, anytime they win, they know they're gaining ground at least on one team. And if they lose, they'll only lose ground on one team. So they enter today. They are a half a game up on both Seattle and Texas. Both teams, though, have a game in hand on the Jays. So Toronto's game in hand was last night. They lost to the Yankees. They have the same 68 losses. Jays have one more win. So Seattle or Texas, let's say the Jays got rained out tonight. Only one of them can catch them. And then the other one would be a full game back. So the Jays taking on Tampa Bay, obviously, who is currently locked in the first wildcard spot. Tampa's good, man. They got the second most wins in the AL and tied for what? Third most wins in the league. Atlanta's got 98. Baltimore has 95. And then Tampa and the Dodgers have 94. So it's going to be quite the stretch run. I like it. Positive Friday, baby. Pour it on from Norm in a combine. Hey, that's right, Norm. It's Positive Friday. Bring it on. Be fired up. Lots to talk about on the show. Now, I do want to get to one thing. I know it's Positive Friday, but I have to get this off my chest because it's been bothering me for a while. And it seems to come up, and people bring it up, and they're uninformed about certain things. So on a Positive Friday, just so that we don't have to always relive this, because it seems to be an ongoing point of conversation and one that isn't necessarily, shall we say, the most accurate. Okay, so you go back to 2015. Connor McDavid got drafted. Ethan Bear, Caleb Jones, a few others were drafted, and also earlier that year, you had Dustin Schwartz join the Oilers organization as their goalie coach. I just want to point out quickly, he was not the goalie coach when Devin Dubnyk was here. So people say, oh, Dubnyk got better when he left Edmonton. Schwartz is a terrible goalie coach. They didn't work together. So now, since Schwartz was here, they drafted Miroslav Svoboda in the 7th round. Never really did much. They also drafted goaltender Dylan Wells in the 5th round. Then they drafted Stuart Skinner in the 3rd. Everyone said, wow, they haven't developed a goalie. Stuart Skinner just was the runner-up in Rookie of the Year. Isn't that developing a goaltender? I always hear, wow, the goalies leave Edmonton, they're way better. Who? Go look at Cam Talbot's career numbers, then go look at his numbers in Edmonton. His save percentage in Edmonton is basically the exact same as his career. And that's because the 3rd year, he struggled. Maybe because he got overplayed a bit in the previous 2, or maybe he just kind of came down to earth in what the goalie was. Either way, he was kind of the same goalie before, the same goalie after. Not much of a massive difference. Didn't make the goalie worse, as some claim. Mike Smith, in his late 30s, had some of his best seasons in Edmonton. Dustin Schwartz was here. Mikko Koskinen came to the NHL at 31 years of age. Never been an NHLer before. Now, it's not Schwartz's fault. They overpaid him. But if you look at Koskinen's first year, when they overplayed him down the stretch, got fatigued, then his conditioning got better, and then he narrowed his stance. And you can only work with so much. You can't take a C goalie and suddenly make him an A goalie. Koskinen's numbers, he was fine as a backup. As long as you didn't overplay him, he was fine. Stuart Skinner's been developing. Rodrigue's been developing. So please stop with false narratives on a Positive Friday that Dustin Schwartz is a bad goalie coach when there's actually no truth to it. Mike Smith, some of his best years here. Mikko Koskinen, never been in the NHL before, never been in the NHL afterwards. It was serviceable. Stuart Skinner, who's been with Schwartz from day one, is the goalie that you want a goalie coach to develop. He's overseen it. Rodrigue now, he keeps improving. Who knows how good he'll be? And keep in mind, not every draft pick that you have is going to work out. Not every defenseman you draft works out. Does that mean your defense coaches are terrible? No. It's just the truth is they're not all good enough to play. That's how it goes. But please stop repeating falsehoods. It's embarrassing. Okay? It's embarrassing. Show the list of all these goalies who are so great after leaving. There isn't any. Sorry. There isn't any. I just had to get it off my chest. I'm just tired of hearing about it. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying Dustin Schwartz a do-all, end-all, but he's not nearly as bad as people claim. At all. None whatsoever. If you want to use Laurent Brossoit, did you know that when he left Edmonton, Laurent Brossoit stayed working with Dustin Schwartz? So, there you have it. Now, hey, Gregor, it's hard to get rained out in Tropicana. Darren. Yeah, I know, Darren. I was just using it as an example, saying if the game was postponed, either way, the Jays would still be in a playoff spot because the two teams that have the game in hand, only one of them can win. That was my point. So the Jays, if they can manage to win 2 against Tampa Bay this weekend, they're going to at least gain 1 game on one of those two teams. They just want to avoid going 1-2. It's a big weekend. Obviously, you're in a playoff race, but even if they go 1-2, they'll still have lost no ground on one of Seattle or Texas because they're playing each other all weekend. So it's a little bit of an advantage schedule-wise for the Jays because Tampa is a very, very good team. Very good. And then they play Baltimore again, who's obviously pretty good. So we'll see how it goes. The Elks tonight. Here is the Captain Obvious statement of the day. They're not going to get shut out. All right, it's Positive Friday, but let's be real here. Getting shut out twice by the same team has never happened before in the franchise history. They're not getting shut out 3 times. They will find a way to get in the end zone. Brown, Trey Ford, Lewis, somebody. They're going to score points tonight. Now, can they beat BC? We'll see. Lions are a pretty solid team, but their quarterback is very susceptible to throwing interceptions. If I'm the Elks secondary, you know what I'm doing? I'm practicing my catching before the game because, trust me, you'll get a few balls thrown your way in the secondary. It'll be up to them to hold on to it. But the option is going to be there to get a pick tonight. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be entertaining. Should be a decent night for Friday Night Football. 7 o'clock start, not 8, so that's even better. I like it. And we'll go from there. Connor Halley is with us. Con man, what's your expectations tonight's Lions-Elks game?
Well, just making sure 7:30 start down at Commonwealth.
7:30.
Okay. You know, people can get there early, tailgate, have a good time. That's fine. What? The weather's going to be great.
I walked by the tailgating. Like, it is expanded. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. Like, They're down there. Everybody's having fun, right? It's very respectful, but it's a good time. Like, there's live music going on. People got the barbecues out. They offer you food if you like. Like, honestly, I remember the first time I went to Green Bay, and my wife was she went there and she was like, what kind of magical world is this? Because we were walking into the stadium and people stopped. And now they do it big time. Like, they have old ambulances that they've turned into like basically big fridges, and they park it there and they open the doors and they're serving, and they were serving Jaeger. And you walk by, they're just like, hey, do you want a Jaeger? Which happened to be one of my wife's, like, she doesn't drink a lot, but she does like Jaeger. And she was just like, this is unbelievable. And right now, that's what it's becoming at the Elks. Like, it's very friendly. They offer burgers and different things to people. Everybody's getting along. So I recommend it if you haven't gone. And now you got to reserve your spot, right? Which is great. You got to plan ahead. They'll be down there pretty early. I'm guessing 4 o'clock, maybe even earlier. The diehards getting in the parking lot and away you go. And it's a fun atmosphere if you just kind of want to walk through it on the west side of the stadium.
And that's what I would recommend that. I mean, you don't have to get there and set up shop, but walk through it, say hello to people. Yes. Everyone's there to chat. They've got live music going on. And like you said, food and drinks, the Spirit of Edmonton people are fantastic. They'll make you feel at home. As for the game, once it gets going, I mean, expect the Elks to try to establish the run once again. Kevin Brown, these last couple games, has been absolutely outstanding, averaging 6.3 yards per carry. And, you look at him and you think, how do you bring him down after the first tackle? Like, he's just kind of a little ball of hate out there, and he's busting big runs. I believe he has the most 20-yard plus runs in the CFL at 9. He's just been really great. And I don't think his evolution happens without the team putting in Trey Ford and running those options and keeping the linebackers on their heels a little bit before they can just, shoot the gaps. So I think the Edmonton Elks, for them, just try to establish that run. And like you said, Vernon Adams, 14 interceptions this year, leading the way, and that's in a game less played. He'll throw some balls up there that you can go and get, and the Edmonton Elks secondary, as of late, has been finding the balls. So I think for sure you got to try to take advantage of the mistakes that BC gives you, try to play off the home crowd, hopefully, and just continue doing what you're doing. Establish the run. That's going to set up the pass for Trey Ford. And hopefully they keep this thing going.
Hey, Gregor, you're 1,000% wrong. Schwartz is not a good goalie coach. Some goalies have looked better here because of the team in front of them. Koskinen did not improve, and neither is Campbell. If anything, they've gotten worse. RL. Well, except the data actually shows RL that Koskinen did improve. What are you talking about? Okay? Have data to back up a hollow opinion. Okay? Because your opinion looks ridiculous. Fact. Jack Campbell had one bad year. You think Schwartz told him to change everything? Said, hey, they actually got him to change his equipment, which he wouldn't do because it was outdated. So is Dave Manson a bad goal defense coach because Cody Ceci wasn't as good last year as he was the year before? Like, think about that. It's a ridiculous statement. Ridiculous. Mike Smith, the team in front of him was better? Huh? Mike Smith played on good teams before. Or are the Oilers a defensive juggernaut? All of it. That's what I'm learning now. RL is that the Oilers are a defensive juggernaut that make their goalies look way better. What are you talking about? It's a hilarious comment. It's hilarious. Anybody who watches the Oilers will say the one area that they got to improve on is consistent team defense. But RL's telling us, well, the team in front of him makes the goalie look better. That's a good one, man. Good one. So, hey, guys, I feel like the team has to adjust from Smith. Having him in the net was like having a third D-man from Cat Dad. Well, he was unbelievable moving the puck. But, Stuart Skinner's pretty good puck handler. Right? Jack Campbell's okay. You're right, though. I think at times, there were certain times where Mike Smith's puck handling skills. Now, everybody remembers he'll make a gaffe every now and then, but then he would make like 100 good plays. But, he makes one bad one. So that's what I got to focus on. It's quite comical to me. But, yeah, it did change it for sure. I think at times he made it, like Tyson Barrie said it, like you could go some games, you don't even get hit because Mike Smith was out. He's knocking the puck down, then he's moving it. It was a big advantage for sure. So, but Stuart Skinner's pretty decent puck mover. He's not at Smith's level, but he's well above what Koskinen was. As for Jack Campbell, he had a bad year. I don't think anyone can question that. He admits it. Everybody knows it. But I don't put that on the goalie coach solely. He didn't come in and suddenly change Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell had a bad year. He talked about it yesterday. Got behind the 8 ball early, probably put a little too much pressure on himself. Then they worked on some things throughout the year. But when your confidence is low, it doesn't matter. It's like when a forward suddenly is going 20 games, hasn't scored a goal. You can be the skills coach. You can be the offensive coach all you want and work with them, but it's hard to get their confidence back up until they score again. And goalies are harder because obviously you're not pitching shutout every game. And making one big save usually doesn't just turn it around for a goalie. So Jack Campbell, no question, is the guy to watch this year. But if Jack Campbell has a solid season this year, is everybody going to say, wow, what a great job Schwartz did? No. They're going to say, it looks like Jack Campbell's back to the goalie he was the previous 4 years. Work on a few little things. Quick break. When we return, Kirt Hill will join us. The Oil Kings, they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. And that's junior hockey. It's cyclical. Obviously, the Oil Kings were at the peak, and unfortunately, some of their peak years happened to be during COVID, so they were robbed of a few more competitive seasons. But they had a down year last year, which they expected. Now they start to come up. They've added some age and experience on the back end. Can they push for a playoff spot? We'll find out from the GM next on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
For a limited time at McDonald's, enjoy the tasty breakfast trio. Your
Positive Friday continues on Sports 1440 and also live on Oilers Nation YouTube. You can get involved. Text lines humming at 833-401-1440. Also lots of comments already in on the chat room. And we will now get to our big guest of the day, brought to you by the Hockey Super League, a premier hockey solution with a clear path for long-term development, offering borderless hockey, including provincial and cross-province competition. Visit hockeysuperleague.ca for more information. And we are joined in studio by the general manager of the Edmonton Oil Kings, Kirt Hill. Join us, Kirt. Welcome back. Not welcome back, first time in this studio, but welcome back to the show. How are things?
Yeah, they're doing good. Yeah, I think thanks for having me to the new studio. It's great to be here, and yeah, just looking forward to getting the year going here tonight.
And you guys, like a lot of teams in the league, it's there's some teams have 4 guys missing, some have 5. You've got 2. Just due to because they're still in NHL camps, which is a great opportunity for the young guys. I'm sure as a GM, you're like, well, I'd like him here, but it's only a few games. But your team, I think, is one where I think you go into this season believing you can compete for a playoff spot. And, every game could matter at the end of the day. So while it's great for them, selfishly, maybe you'd probably want them here for 2 games.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's kind of the attitude our group has to go in to the year with. It's, I don't think we have a team on paper right now where you're predicted to win the league like we've had here in the past. But, all the points are going to matter. Those tight games are going to be really important as we move down the stretch. But even here early in the season, you want to get off to a good start and start building that confidence. I think we were even trying to distill that a little bit in the exhibition games where we probably had some more numbers, a little bit more of our roster and what that was going to look like. And we played in 1-goal games in all 4 of them. So I think it's going to be a year where we're playing in a lot of tight games, and it's just finding ways to get points and come off on the better side in some of those.
You didn't have a lot of wins last year, and that's kind of the cyclical nature of the Western Hockey League. When you go forward, eventually you age out some players, and you know what, you kind of got to wait a few years just to see some players come in, and now you're kind of in the start of a new cycle as a GM, so that's always part of it. But you brought in, a few 20-year-olds. Unfortunately, Nash has got a broken wrist, so he won't be ready to play for you until December. But Lajoie's on the back end. You need some experience back there. Kind of, if you look at your team and then you look around the league, where do you see your team's strengths to start the year?
Well, I know kind of when we ran the numbers here throughout the summer, and we're kind of looking around the league on who's returning, what everyone's strengths are going to be. We certainly have a lot of experience in net. We have 2 guys that have played in the league and have a lot of experience. So although their numbers last year were tough at times, just with, but a lot of the times they were kind of let out to dry in some of those games, just with where we were as a team and injuries and some of those variables. But I think that should be one of the strengths. We need those, and we need them to be those guys. It's we have a 19 and an 18-year-old, and it's designed that way that we can have a good tandem and hopefully give our young decor some time to learn and make mistakes. And our forward group is actually a little bit of an older group. It's not super young, and some of the younger guys we do have are guys that are already playing up in the top 6 of that lineup. So when you go down the depth a little bit, it's not like our 4th line is full of 16-year-olds. It's some of those players that are 17 now are moving into our top 6, which you want, and hopefully they can have a good year this year. And you got them for 3 years. When
you look at certain players, I don't like to put too much pressure or expectations, but I'm sure some of these guys feel like, hey, it's ready. It's a year for me to make a step. And one of those guys is Cole Miller, where you just look on paper and he's got a lot of the right things. He came in as a 16-year-old on a really good team, got to experience some things, and he's a big body. Where do you see Cole at as far as his development?
I think he's moving in the right direction. One of the things we focused on last season, kind of when we got halfway through the year, was really him getting a lot stronger and putting on some weight. We kind of ran numbers on guys that are getting drafted and moving on to the NHL. And, we really tried to make that 190 mark a goal for him to get stronger and mature physically. And credit to him. He put the work in over the summer. I think he's 192 going into the season. He looked good in camp, looked good in the preseason. So I think it's trending in the right direction where he's going to be on cue here to have a good year for us. He's going to play big, meaningful minutes to us. And when you're a centerman, there's going to be tough nights with matchups, but he's got to find a way to take that step now.
Let's look at his game, because he seems to have all the pieces. It's just a matter of now putting it together. Last year I'm sure was tough for any of the young guys because their first year in the league, it's like, oh my goodness, this is great. We're winning all the time. Like everybody's having fun. And then boom, you're barely winning. How much do you think the mental wear and tear weighed down some of your younger players who were there in their second years after having success early?
Well, I certainly think those young guys that were there the year before put a lot of expectations on themselves. And I think for any player in the Western League at 17, it's pretty tough to drive offense by yourself and drive a team. And even with championship experience, those guys, they weren't in the fight every night. They weren't on the top line. So last year, I think they did get off to a little bit. They were overwhelmed early, and then the team, we weren't winning games, and they were just putting pressure on themselves. And this year's a little bit of a different scenario where we have some more older guys to insulate, and they're starting to now turn on to the second half of their career here in the league where they need to make those steps and they need to start driving the bus a little bit more.
GM of the Edmonton Oil Kings, Kirt Hill, joins us. Of course, they start tonight and then their home opener tomorrow. We'll give you some tickets later on in the show if you want to head down. And you know what? You look at the league overall, you know what? There were some strong teams last year. Is there a team on paper? Like there doesn't, from my vantage point, you obviously search it a lot closer than I do. I don't see necessarily two like juggernauts that we had. There's more good teams. Is that fair? Or do you see one or two that could match Seattle and Winnipeg?
I don't know. There's nothing close to that at this point. Like last year, there was multiple teams I would say that were ahead of even probably the top team this year. But, on paper right now, I think Portland's got a really deep team. They don't have like that real high end, superstar group, but they have a great team that's been together for a long time. Their 20-year-old players are probably the best in the league out of all the teams. And, Mike does a great job there with his group and the way that they're coached. And, they always drive a ton of offense and play a pretty disciplined game. So if I was picking someone on paper to start before anyone makes a move, it's probably Portland. When you talk about coaching and your own coach, kind of for Oil Kings fans, what kind of team should they be expecting this year? Well, our identity has to come off work and our structure. I mean, we're not going to be the kind of team that can go out there and win games by scoring a lot of goals. If we can score 4 a night, that's going to be a good night for us. And we have to make sure that we're defensively responsible, and it's got to be a work ethic type attitude every night. We're a pretty big team, actually. Yes. When you look at it on paper, looking at it, you got a lot of size for a junior team. We do. And it's got to be the mindset of making the game tough for other teams to play against. Go through 5. We're going to be physical, but it's not giving away those freebies, and just teams got to not like playing against us. At the end of the day, we just got to be one of those annoying teams that, when you're playing the Oil Kings, it's going to be a tough night. Nash has that mentality, no question, how he plays. Do you have a few other agitators on your team? Well, certainly Finney is a guy. Last year, he was, a guy we just brought to camp as an 18-year-old rookie and found his way to stay in the league. And from opportunity that we had with graduating so many players, and he's the kind of guy that plays, 100. He's full out every night, and sometimes it creates him to end up in the penalty box or in some tough situations. But he's our top face-off guy, so he's going to get a ton of minutes just in D zone and taking big draws on the power play when we need him. But he's certainly an agitator there with getting in guys' faces. Obviously, the power play at any level matters. Do you feel your power play can improve this year? And if so, who's going to maybe run your power play, or who's the power play going to flow through? Well, up top, you got Lajoie and Port. Port was drafted by Anaheim, so he's got great hands and a great look out there. And Lajoie has played in the league with so many games and was always on the Tri-Cities power play. So those two guys will probably be on the back end, kind of leading the charge on that top unit and sometimes second unit. But, when you look from last season, obviously Hodnett, Hodnett's going to be out here for the first month of the year, but he's a guy that we're going to be relying on playing the flank and running a lot of our plays off him. And our new European player, Adam Dzeko, he's another guy that's going to play on that top unit probably throughout the year. And the two 20-year-old additions in Litke and Nash, when Nash gets healthy, those are guys that have been between 30 and 40 points in the league that we've kind of targeted as players that were maybe behind, kind of playing on third lines on really good teams that we think can jump in here and and start to put up some big numbers.
Well, Todnet's injury, and you mentioned so he's out for a month. So that's a few pretty key guys. Like you mentioned, Nash not till December. So you're going to have somebody else step up here early on.
Yeah, it's 2/3 of your top line probably on paper. So yeah, it's the Jekyls of the world. He had a good preseason. He scored 3 goals, and Miller was pretty good. So some of those guys are going to have to take a step. And we through some of those deals we made last year, it wasn't about just getting picks. We wanted to get some players back. So we got Nathan Pilling back. So he's gone to Flames camp right now. We'll get him back after the weekend. And Rylan Kovacevic came over from Kelowna, kind of plays a bit of a tough role, but has some offense to his game too. So those guys that probably you expect to be your secondary scoring once you really start rolling are going to have to take primary seats here right away to get us going.
Kirt Hill, GM of the Oil Kings, joins us. They are on the road tonight, and then tomorrow we'll have their home opener. We had Jeff Jackson in studio on Wednesday, and he now the CEO of the Oilers hockey operations. Do you guys work in conjunction? Have you had conversations with Jeff at all? I know, he's into sports science and analytics and some other things they want to improve on. Does that trickle down to your organization as well?
Yeah, Jeff, and we've had some conversations along with Rick Pracey as well, obviously the new head amateur scout. So there's going to be some overlap on some different things, and looking at some of the, some of our reports on players from when they were younger, and some of the trajectory on a lot of these guys heading into the draft. And, one thing that, we have the advantage on at such an early stage with some of these players is all the background information we do when we're going through the Bantam draft with them ourselves. So getting to know the parents and understanding just a lot of the intricacies on their background is something that, our database definitely holds. And I think something that Jeff seems to be interested in, and getting a little bit more in-depth look at it with his group.
What can you tell us about the Rebels? You're going to see them this weekend, home and away. Of course, away first, but what type of squad are you expecting down in Red Deer?
Yeah, I think they're going to be probably the Red Deer squad that you think, they're going to be hardworking. They got some good returning offensive players as well. They picked up Latimer, who played here for a while, was drafted by Ottawa at one time. He's at 20 now, so he's a guy that can really skate and put up numbers as well. But I would say in the Central, probably going into the season, they should be the top team in our division. Medicine Hat is going to be a good team, but they're really young. They had made a huge step last year, going from being last in the league to making the playoffs, which now we're in that situation here in Edmonton, and they were able to do that last year, and they should make some strides as well. But Red Deer's going to play you tight, and they're going to be one of the top teams again in the league.
It's interesting you brought up Medicine Hat, because I wanted to ask it. It's hard to compare, but if you just look at a blueprint, you look and say, hey, Medicine Hat just did it. And we're in virtually the same situation to say, hey, yeah, it's possible. Do you feel your team has improved enough that it's, because I'm not a big believer in wanting to, you know what, everybody's got a chance. The truth is, like, you guys didn't have a chance last year, and you probably knew it. But do you feel like if things go well and there's not any more serious injuries, that you can at least be in the mix?
I certainly do. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. And we, like I said, with the group that we have in net, and our D-core's young, but that's going to be a real bright spot of the future here. Like, we have 3 17-year-olds we really like on that group. And we also have Fiddler coming in as a 16-year-old who's a first overall pick in the U.S. draft. But, I mean, he should probably be a top 5 pick in the Canadian draft. He was in that draft. So with that group and the older forward group, if we can, find ways to stay healthy throughout the season, like you talked about, there's always things that come up, but you just got to hit it at the right time. But I feel like we could be in the hunt.
Kirt Hill joins us. He's the GM of the Oil Kings. They're in Red Deer tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow they are at home. Actually, tomorrow's the first of 3 consecutive home games, because they have Lethbridge next Friday and Sunday at home. So opportunity for Oil Kings fans to get out to some games early on in the season. And just kind of an overview of the league. I think maybe it's better if you don't have the 2 juggernaut teams that we saw last year, maybe even 3, right? And that's going to happen every now and then. If teams do a really good job of building a team, I'm not going to discredit them for it and saying it's bad for the league. But from an overall competitive standpoint, the season shapes up a little bit better. There's a little bit more uncertainty. There's not just like, okay, it's going to be those 2, and then we're just basically going to, have everybody else playing for 3rd place.
Yeah, no, it shapes up better that way. And I think it's going to make the trade market be really interesting as well, as because last year everybody knew what the 4 teams were doing. They knew what players were on the market. Everyone knew what was going on. And unlike, even the year we went for it, like, everybody knew at some point PA was going to be moving Gooley, and the sort of was potentially on the market. So we were able to get some of those done. But this year it's going to be a lot of kind of feeling it out on where that's going to land. And that makes great for the fans in every city in this league. And it makes good for the games. They should be tight, and it should be a good year.
What about your approach to that? Let's say your team's in the mix. You're not at the point, I don't think, where you're going to, sell the future for by any stretch, but the importance of, having your young guys get some playoff action this year could really help pay dividends for the following few years. So how do you balance that as a GM as you get close to the deadline?
Yeah, you just got to see where your group's at, kind of evaluate it and think, or have we put ourselves in the spot we want to be in? Maybe we've overachieved and great. We go add a guy or two. Or maybe if things haven't gone well, there's injuries, then you got to start looking at it. But, the one thing that there is a little bit of strategy, in my opinion, is especially in junior hockey, is if you overload yourself on draft picks, you kind of jam yourself up.
Yeah.
Because it makes it tough to sign guys. Then all of a sudden you have so many high picks, but your fourth round picks ends up being one of the better players of that draft class. You haven't signed him, and now all of a sudden he's like, well, there's no opportunity there for me. I'm going to go the other way, maybe go play junior A and go to college, right? Yeah. So I think there's kind of that fine balance on having too many picks, and we've kind of tried to push some of them out just if, hopefully these young guys can get going. We got lots of picks in 25, 26, maybe to make some moves if we really want to, at that point, try to improve our team. So we're happy with where the picks are. And so, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of seeing where we're at come the 10th, and hopefully we're in a spot to get in the playoffs.
Now, is this year 6 for you as GM?
Yeah.
6, yeah. Okay. So tell me, what is the biggest difference for Kirt Hill GM in year 6 than in year 1?
Well, certainly understanding the relationships around the league of the different GMs, but I think I feel like I've become a little bit more knowledgeable on this trajectory of the player in our league and the patience of understanding that, watching so many guys now, whether it be as an Oil King or with other organizations, on the patience of if you just got to wait until they kind of get through. Once they're 18 and a half, lots of guys finally start to figure it out. And it's just trying to be patient and get guys there as much as it can be. You got to live with a lot of growing pains and mistakes on the ice. I think if it's the right guy, they have the right mindset. I feel like the patience is something I've learned a lot about.
It's fascinating you say that, because we had Warren Moon on the show last week, and we were asking him about quarterbacks, and goes, I don't think there's a shortage of quarterbacks. I think there's a shortage of patience to develop the quarterbacks. And your league has like a 4-year window for lots of the players, potentially. Maybe you can stretch it to 5, I guess, for the odd ones who comes in at 16 and stays until a 20-year-old. But learning that patience and sometimes does that patience even come from, maybe we're better off having a 16-year-old playing junior A or, AAA midget for another season just to maintain their confidence. Because I've seen it from so many players. You lose confidence for guys because a lot of them, they've always been the best player on their team from 10, 11, not all, but lots of them. And then they come and suddenly they have a tough year and they never rebound because they've never dealt with that kind of adversity.
I couldn't agree more with sending guys back, and I've seen it more and more. And it's hard conversations with the families because I would say 95% of them they're in a rush. The player's in a rush. They want to get here. They want to play right away. But sending guys back, I think of some scenarios where Costa probably could have played here at 16, and we sent him back to play more in midget, be a starter. Yeah. Didn't want him to be a backup here at 16, and it worked out really well for him in that scenario. And I think at the end of the day, we've probably, out of those 16-year-olds we kept that aren't the high-end guys, you take the Neighbors and the Gunthers, those guys they're elite. They're playing in the top 6 at 16. But some of the 16s maybe we kept, they probably could have went back. And you learn those as you go, and you get a little bit of a better feel for what's the opportunity going to be like for our group, and can we play them enough?
Because you can find an 18-year-old that can probably play as well as that 16-year-old. And the benefit of having that 16-year-old dominate at a lower level helps you out long-term.
I agree. And I always, the conversations I always had with Brad when he was here, and now with Luke, is if we're keeping a 16-year-old, you need to be confident enough to play him in 68 games. We're not a team that's about the 40 game limit.
Okay, yeah.
Because you got to get him in 40, and some teams operate that way. But I don't want to keep a player to try to just go remind the coaches, hey, we have to get this guy in to get him to his 40 games, because that's not helping the kid. So
no. And the kid senses that. I'm sure the kid knows that, oh, geez, because he looks and says, oh, look, we're playing one of the worst teams in the league. Oh, great. Now I get in the lineup and I get my 4 minutes, and it doesn't help. Like, I've always wondered, has there ever been conversation to change that rule, to increase it to 55 games, to make it so you got to be really certain that the guy can play? Now, obviously that excludes injuries, right? If a kid gets injured, then I think it's prorated stuff. Yeah,
there's some things where you can kind of, the under 17s, if players go there, those games don't count. But, there hasn't been much conversation on raising it. I think some teams in the league like to use it as a bit of a development model for those players, and that's just how they do it. They like them practicing with their groups and learning the way that they do things there at a young age, and they try to build them up that way. But I I've seen it here personally. I've seen it fail more by keeping guys that aren't ready rather than sending them back. And I think the biggest conversation is getting ahead of it with the family and making sure they have a good spot to go back to.
And one last one. I'm looking at your schedule. I think you play like 3 road games in your first 11 or something like that. How important is it to take advantage of this favorable schedule at home for your team early on, despite having a few key injuries?
Yeah, it's huge. It truly is. And, I think in the what I do know after Christmas, we play 24 of 34 on the road. So it's going to
After Christmas.
After Christmas. So it's going to be a tough stretch at that point with all those road games. So we have to get off to a good start here. And, one of the benefits of being at home as much as we are is the coach has got lots of time for practice. And this is the time you want to be practicing with your group early in the year, learning systems, kind of hashing things out. So that's one of the positives. But on the back end, there's going to be some tough trips once it gets snowy outside.
Well, it's a little harder for Radomski. He better be good in the ensuring that they've got lots of good promotional events early on in the season with so many home games.
Kevin, he does a great job. And I know that some of the promotions he has coming this year are going to be pretty great for the fans. And, speaking to last year winning 10 games and leading the league in attendance speaks to what they do there at OEG for our brand specifically. It's amazing what they do. And this year I know $20 tickets to come to the games. And Kevin and I were talking today a little bit about the new kids family packs too for the food that they've revamped at the rink. I know it's always been a concern on how expensive things are, and they've revamped that. So $10 now you can eat full kids meals. It's really a family friendly atmosphere, and they do an awesome job with it.
Yeah. So for anybody going to the games now, it's much more affordable to get some food in the kids, because half the enjoyment for a kid is you get to go to the game, but you also get to have the snacks. It's kind of goes hand in hand.
And the bouncy castles are great, right?
Yeah, that's true. And throwing the pucks. So there's quite a few things there. Of course, seeing the mascot is another big one. I know I've coached, 8, 9-year-olds the last few years. And even at that age, they get fired up to go to the Oil Kings games. They love it. They're right by the glass. Usually don't get to go right by the glass to an Oilers game, and they're right up close. And game's faster. It's just way faster when you're that close. So it's a lot of fun. Well, Kirk, I really appreciate you coming in studio today. And of course, we'll have you on often throughout the year. So thanks for this, and best of luck in week 1.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That is Kirt Hill, the GM of the Oil Kings. They're in Red Deer tonight. And also, by the way, big announcement, the Oil Kings, all 68 games are available on iHeart. Some of you I know are listening to the station right now on iHeart Radio, so be sure to get the Oil Kings games. They got their own channel, and you can listen to Andrew Peart all 68 games starting tonight in Red Deer. And then, of course, the home opener tomorrow against the same Red Deer Rebels. So we'll come back. We got Cam Tate, then Lorianne Munzer, and more on the Positive Friday edition of the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Well, ding, ding. The champ is back in the ring, going toe-to-toe with the best flock and chicken wing special in town, only at the Canadian Brew House. A minimum 10 wings ain't no problem for the champ when they're only 69 cents all day Wednesday, all day Sunday. Yeah, pal. 2 days to enjoy an unbeatable offer on wings. With a featured wing flavor of the month every month, Wednesday and Sundays just became a very serious wing thing. Both days, all day. 69 cents only at the Canadian Brew House.
Ain't it beautiful? The inventory is unprecedented. Volvo Cars Edmonton is proud to boast an amazing selection of in-stock Volvo XC40s, 60s, and 90s. Visit Volvo Cars Edmonton today and experience the exemplary service you've come to expect and the affordable luxury only found with Volvo Cars Edmonton, Canada's only 12-time Volvo Excellence Award winners. Experience the difference.
Volvo of Edmonton.
How exciting is it to have Sports Talk Radio back in Edmonton?
Tie game, bottom of the ninth with a full count. The kick, the pitch. It's high, it's far, it is gone! Walk-off home run!
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Edmonton Kubota is excited to welcome back Sports Talk Radio, Sports 1440. We'll be
with the truck. For best residual value, so when that inevitable ring-a-ding-ding for help comes, you're there, rolling up in an award-winning truck because you're an award-worthy friend. It's time to lift with your legs. It's time to Toyota. Order a 2023 Tacoma 4x4 Double Cab SR5 starting from $47,650. Price includes additional fees, taxes extra. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer today.
Positive Friday continues on. Edmonton Sports Leader, TSN 1260. It is the Jason Gregor Show coming to you live from the eWell studio, EWEL.ca. From LED lighting audits and retrofits to design, build, distributions, eWell can give you the edge you need to impress your clients. Go to EWEL.ca. Of course, if you're watching live on Oilers Nation YouTube, you'll see their lovely logo right behind me. So it's pretty simple. You can't spell it wrong. Very, very easy. We got lots of text to get to at 833-401-1440. Coming up at the top of the hour, Lorianne Munzer, two-time Olympic gold medalist. Our Friday guest will join us. Brent Wallace will go to Ottawa around the NHL, talk about the Sens. Their ownership deal is in. But what's up with Shane Pinto? Is he going to get signed? Well, I know it's not about Ottawa, but the report about Trevor Zegras being offered $3 to $4 million bucks. Oh, the little ball of hate, Pat Verbeek. That's a bold approach. Maybe they you look at him, he's two back-to-back seasons of 60 points as a young player. Now, you can sit here and say, yeah, Zegras has got to improve here, he's got to improve there, sure. But he's got two 60-point seasons, man, in his first few years in the league. Like, offering him $3 to $4 million, it's kind of ridiculous. But here's the thing. If you're Zegras, what do? You can only not sign for so long. Otherwise, you miss the whole season. And is $3 or $4 million better than zero? I would think so. But it's not good for either side because then Zegras, let's say you hold out till the end of November. Right? Holdout's the wrong word. You don't sign until the end of November. Well, now you're playing catch up. So even if you take less money, yeah, it's not good for you. It's not good for the Ducks. Season's wasted, but the Ducks probably can take this risk because they're not going to be good. And in this boat, not having Zegras to start the season, guess what? That just improves their chances of being a bad team. And Jamie Drysdale, both are unsigned. So we'll go to Anaheim next week in around the NHL and find out exactly what is going on, because it's kind of odd. Like, I could see if you didn't want to back up the Brinks truck to Zegras and give him $8 million or $9 million, even though the numbers suggest you probably should. I could get if they say, you know what, we're not certain how good he's going to be. Okay. Because, like, look at Matt Barzal. Yeah, the 85-point season. He's never come close to it since. Now, they're also not an overly offensive-minded team in New York, but he hasn't, after his rookie year, Matt Barzal hasn't matched that level of productivity. Now, Zegras, could he stay a 60-point guy? Sure. And 60 points is probably a $6 million player. So maybe that's why they're playing hardball. But I do find it a little interesting, to say the least. So it is Friday, and you know what that means. Every Monday and Friday on the show at this time, Cam Tate is a longtime journalist in our city. Cam is in a wheelchair, and he has cerebral palsy. He has always wanted to be a radio guy, but due to his cerebral palsy, his voice isn't clear enough to do it all the time. But with the wonders of technology, Tater is allowed to use his voice now, and we give him a platform here as another edition of the 2-Minute Warning with Cam Tate.
I'm Brian from VoxBox. Today's 2-minute warning: the Humboldt Broncos legacy. We all had that feeling on that 2018 spring evening when everything went so wrong. The pictures, the grief, the terrible feeling of helplessness when the Humboldt Broncos bus was demolished, claiming 16 lives and disabling 13 others. What do we do to help? Many contributed funds, others wrote letters. But there was that yearning to do more. Perhaps we can start something individually and collectively, starting tonight and lasting all winter. Because right now, countless buses with junior hockey players, full of promise, are pounding Canadian highways on their way for a game. The Edmonton Oil Kings start their Western Hockey League season tonight in Red Deer and are, probably right now, loading their bus. The Spruce Grove Saints begin a 3-game weekend set of games in Brooks. The Sherwood Park Crusaders are in Drumheller tomorrow. 2, 1, play the game they love, and 2, chase their dream, wherever it might take them. We need to make sure their bus pulls into arenas, restaurants, hotels, and coffee shops safe and sound. The highways are dry right now, and the weather is great. But in a few weeks, winter will slowly tighten its seasonal squeeze. The prairies will endure another winter and present some treacherous driving conditions. But no matter the weather, those of us driving on highways need to remember the Humboldt story and its most profound meaning. We must be ever cognizant of the speed limit, the stop signs, the flashing lights, the slippery highways, and so much more. If we do, we will keep everyone safe, including buses ferrying junior hockey players, so maybe, just maybe, defensive driving is a way we can honor the Humboldt Bronco team of 2018 and their current band of brothers chasing their dreams. I'm Brian for VoxBox 2-Minute Warning and Cam Tate on the Jason Gregor Show, heard Mondays and Fridays right here on Sports 1440.
It is one that makes you think for sure in regards to the buses. So safe travels for everyone out there. School buses, there's hockey teams, there's football teams, there's basketball teams, volleyball. You think about how many teams are out there and how few accidents, thankfully, there are. It's fantastic. Now, got a lot of text at 833-401-1440 coming in. Hey, guys, I have a 5-year-old son. Took him to the Elks game. It was the $2 hot dogs. We sat down literally 1 minute. Dad, when's lunch? See, it's true. Half the excitement for the kid to go to the sporting event is to get the burger or the hot dog or the popcorn. That's just part of it. Right? It adds to it. Super fun. I like it. Hey, guys. Trevor Zegras, comeback player of the year. Now you're getting into it. Oh, the old Willie Nylander. Oh, that was still a classic. So funny. When remember, because the next season, some people had him at the midway point in that player poll as the comeback player of the year. Why? Because he came back from not signing a contract. God, that was funny. Still one of the few times I've seen Strutty like legitimately upset. Legitimately upset. It was so good. Hey, guys, why don't we wait until our goalies play a few games? I think we have a good tandem together. They will get it done. Don't worry. From Shanked One. Well, I don't think anybody's jumping the gun. I think people are just outlining, hey, Jack Campbell has to have a bounce-back season. But that's like Captain Obvious thing. Of course he does. His previous 4 years, he had a combined .916 save percentage. Last year at an .888. Now, if he falls in the footsteps of Markstrom, he'll bounce back. I'll say this. I don't expect Campbell to be .916. If he does, that's a really good year because keep in mind, goal scoring's up across the NHL. What used to be a 914, 15 is now like a 911, 910, just because there's more goals across the league. So I don't even think Campbell needs to be a 916 to have a good season. I outlined it. The top 20 goalies in the league who started at least 30 games. Stuart Skinner was 14th and he was 914. Solid. As a rookie. If Jack Campbell's even just 905 last year, that's the 20th goalie in the year and 21st goalie who starts 30 games. Right? And if Stuart Skinner plays well, then you're doing fine because I fully expect both goalies to play at least 30 games unless one of them gets hurt. I don't see any other way around it. Right? So I don't see one of these guys starting 55 games. I'd be surprised because I don't think I just don't think it's a smart idea to overplay a goalie. They don't have a Vasilevsky. They don't have a Shesterkin. And even those guys, I don't think it's beneficial. You look at a guy like Vasilevsky. He, he's an elite goalie. So he's able to do it. Not many others can do it. Hey, guys, awesome to hear Tate on the radio. Kudos, Gregors, for that segment. I played Junior and Camero many years ago, and he joined us on the bus a few times. Great guy and great journalist from Buchanistan. You know what? And Tater, I give him credit, man. Like, he never considers himself disabled at all. And I love it. Like, Cam wants to be treated like anyone else. He'll give you the gears. He'll chirp you back. He wants you to chirp him. I still laugh every time I think of the John Short speech. And he was very heartfelt, and he says all these nice things about Cam Tate. And they're giving him an award. And then when Cam gets up to the mic, and got to remember, he has cerebral palsy. So, some of his words when he speaks, you got to really pay attention. And Cam and his voice, and I don't want to impersonate because I can't do it well. But anyway, he gets up to this. The first thing he says, beep you, John. So funny. Because no one's expecting it. And it's just, Cam's got a really good sense of humor. So we're happy that we can give him a voice, something that he said. It's like a 48-year dream come true for him to be able to have that every Monday and Friday on the show. And so, you know what? We've actually had a few sponsors who are interested in wanting to sponsor that, which is great. So I like it. Let's get to Connor Halley and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. Home with no payments, no interest for 1 year on your furnace. Stay warm all winter. LegacyHeating.ca. After the con man, Lori Ann Munzer will join us.
It's time for a Sports 1440 update.
Start off in the CFL, the Elks in action tonight, hosting a BC Lions down at Commonwealth. Kickoff 7:30. Before that, though, you've got Saskatchewan in Ottawa taking on the Red Blacks. That one will get going at 5. Major League Baseball tonight, the Jays in action once again, kicking off a weekend series down in Tampa, taking on the Rays. This one gets going at 4:40. Elsewhere, Marlins will take on the Brewers. The Diamondbacks travel to New York, taking on the Yankees. Guardians host the Orioles. The Mariners in Texas take on the Rangers. Big one there in the wild card race. The Astros host the Royals. Tigers take on the Athletics, and it's the Dodgers up against the Giants. One final, the Rockies blanked by the Cubbies 6-0. In the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers announcing today that they've signed GM John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan to multi-year extensions. Lynch and Shanahan joined the Niners back in 2017 and have since led the organization to the postseason 3 times with 1 Super Bowl appearance. A quick fantasy update. Austin Eckler, Anthony Richardson, Justice Hill, Bryce Young all ruled out for Sunday. The Edmonton Oil Kings kick off their season tonight down in Red Deer, taking on the Rebels. There's a rematch tomorrow in Edmonton. Puck drop in that one, 7 o'clock. The Golden Bears in action out in Vancouver, taking on UBC. It's a 7 o'clock start. In the AJ Spruce Groves in Olds tonight, they will host Olds tomorrow out at Grant Fuhr Arena. That's a 7 o'clock start. As for Sherwood Park, they're in Brooks tonight, then Drum Heller tomorrow. And the Edmonton Huskies will host the Saskatoon Hilltops Sunday, 1 o'clock at JP Bowl. That should be a great game. You've also got the Wildcats in Winnipeg taking on the Rifles. That's a 7 o'clock start on Saturday.
This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports
Positive Friday continues on. How are you? Welcome back to the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. And man, Connor and I have been having a lot of fun at PlayAlberta.ca with their new boost bets. There's so many cool ones if you want to look at, especially when you're coming up on the NFL, and they're going to have it all for the NHL season. They're actually going to be unveiling some new things in mid-October for NHL to make it a lot more fun. People really get into prop bets. They're kind of nice when it gets into individual, right? You can do a $10 one here or there. So check out the boosts at playalberta.ca. And the great part about it is there's a limit on how much you can do. So you can protect yourself from yourself if you need be. Check it out, playalberta.ca. It is Friday, and that means Lori Ann Munzer joins us as she does in studio all the time, which is fantastic. Lori Ann, good to see you again. How you doing?
Good to see you. Doing awesome. It's Friday. How can you not be better than better?
Yeah, it's good. Now, it's perfect to have you in with the timing because of, so I had an interview with Jay Woodcroft, and he talked about how, because I'd asked him about, man, your players have put a lot of pressure on themselves and they have high expectations, which is good. It's good to have high expectations, but in a long season, you don't want to always be focused on it. You'll just be mentally burned out. And he said he had a message that he wanted two things for them to concern themselves about. Number one was their day, whether it was a game day, a practice day, a day off, to do your best to ensure that you're maximizing your day, and which can help the team. And then the other one was the standard. They have a standard set in the organization. They walk by it all the time when they come in the room. There's the Stanley Cups. And he says, hey, that's our goal. So it's a reminder. And the standard is we want to do our best. There's no guarantee it's hard to win. So I want to, first of all, start about your day. And, from an individual standpoint, you know what? It's eating right. Make sure you're sleeping right. What are some other things that could ensure, and I want to do it on a game day, because the rest day to me seems kind of easy, right? Like, don't run around and go crazy. Like, that's one where it's easy to do.
Sometimes the rest day is the hardest day.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
That can be the hardest day. But really, you're looking at it with a big picture. You're looking at what does the whole week look like, because one day builds to the next, to the next, to the next. And the rest day is part of the training, whether you've got 1 day or 2 day. When I was training, it was always Monday, because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, events, racing, sometimes it was 1 day. So Monday was the start of the new week. But you always had to know where you were, be present on that day, deliver it, execute, do your best with everything that you're doing. And then that is going to set you up for the whole week.
So, and you mentioned it's hard on the rest day, because I'm assuming if you had a bad race, or let's say the Oilers have a tough loss, on the rest day, well, I got to do something because that's the only way I can get better. Like, we're wired that way. I know people that are just weekend warriors listening out here. They train. They're like, oh, I got to work out every day. If I don't work out every day, even though all the data tells you your body needs rest, you need to recover. Yeah. So outside of staying off your feet, which is like, what are other good things to do on a rest day that allows you to maximize it other than eating healthy?
Well, number one, I took a number of courses. So are you doing some extra educational stuff, or are you in school? Are you continuing that there? I also did some yoga training. And for me, that was encompassing the mental aspect, but the breathing aspect and the physical aspect. So it was just showing up as one. And there's times when you would do a class like that and you'd be on fire. Your head would be on the floor. Your feet would be wherever they were supposed to be. And you're in these crazy poses. But part of it is being in the moment, aligning with where you are and your breath. So for me, there was, I still felt like I was training. So that for me was a no-brainer. And it's just, you have to find those things that you love to do. That is also distraction therapy, but it's something that's going to move you in a positive way as well. It's not going to take away from your training, like you're on your feet all the day, you're running up and down stairs, maybe you're helping a buddy move, right? Probably not what you want to be doing. So you're always looking at, how can this benefit me where I also am recovering, but I'm still maybe using more mental stuff in a different way. Something fun that I love to do.
I know you work with individuals, you work with groups and stuff. And so when it comes to the game day for NHL players, people think, hey, they get up in the morning. Most days there's the morning skate. Some players take it. I've noticed the last few years there's not as many who take the morning skate anymore. And I can understand why. You don't necessarily need it. Some like it, some don't. It's obviously their own opinion on what feels. They'll know their body and what feels good about them. Treatment on a race day or a game day is imperative, right? And you learn certain things, like maybe you get a massage 4 hours before. Maybe you like to eat 4 hours before because you feel better come game time. A lot of it's learning. And when you're in the NHL, once you're established NHL player, you probably know these little things. But for people, how do you learn what works best on game day?
A lot of trial and error, totally trial and error. So you normally find out like what are the best things that you do or you should be doing. And number one, I think it's really imperative that you write it down, because how do you remember everything you did like last week, 2 weeks ago, what worked, what didn't work? So I'm always a big proponent of writing it down, because there's a certain order that is going to be just gold for you, but it may not work for one of your teammates. So you got to figure out what the perfect chemistry is. Like when you were just talking about this earlier, I was thinking chicken and rice, rice and chicken and rice. That was my pre-race dinner every time. And I had 6 almonds on standby just in case. I'm hypoglycemic, so I know if I go up, if I go down, and I want something to regulate me, I've got to have it.
So 6 almonds would do it.
6 almonds, yeah.
Really?
And I had a
Okay.
nutritionist tell me that. And it works. For me, it works. For other people, they're like, yeah, no, it doesn't work. But you have these rituals or routines. Do you have a bath? Do you have a shower the night before? Do you get a massage like you were saying? Are you doing a pre-skate? When we were racing, I would always get up early in the morning before breakfast, throw my cycling equipment on, and I jump on the rollers for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You do 3 spin-ups, 10 seconds, boom, it's to get the head going. Because sometimes if you're thinking, oh my gosh, well, I didn't do my skate or I didn't do my ride and I've got a race, you feel at a deficit. So sometimes it's that balance of, keeping the mind happy as well as the body, but it's just a little bit. And you get to know what works for you. And it's literally like a formula or a chemistry experiment. And you figure out what is optimal. Race day is not the time to try things, or game day is not the time to try. Like, don't go get a new pair of skates, try them on game day. Like, worst time, because if they don't work, oh, well, then my skates didn't work and that's what happened. You got to do and set up all these things beforehand. And then it becomes this new habit or this new routine that you've got. And you get so dialed in that, okay, if I don't have rice and chicken, what's the next best thing? What else can I do? What else could I have? Who's around? Who do I need to connect with? I had the ritual of calling my sister at big races from, Kuala Lumpur, from Australia. And it was just, okay, that's exactly what I needed. But that was part of my ritual.
How long were those conversations with your sister?
Oh, sometimes 30 seconds. All I needed her was say, all right, go kick some butt. Right.
Okay.
And it was just knowing that I had somebody in my court, even though they weren't physically there. But sometimes it's just knowing that you've got that person. It's just, they're there. Okay, you got the message. Maybe it was a note. Maybe it was a text. We didn't have a lot of that stuff when I was racing 20 years ago. But it's just those things. There's certain things you look for that are just, boom, okay, this is what I need now. Let's go. Let's do it. And the other thing is, I learned you put your shoes in a certain order. So it was always the left foot in first and then the right foot. And it's crazy things like that. Some people will call it superstitions, but it's not. It's things are done in a certain way, just like a fighter pilot. It becomes automatic that you don't think about it, and you know what works.
Do you still put on your right shoe before your left shoe?
Never. It's always the left foot.
Oh, it's always left first.
Always left.
Okay.
Even my boots, my shoes, my work boots, running shoes, my flip-flops.
So you always put on your left.
Yep.
I've never paid attention. I don't even know about that. Part of me would
And
think,
most people won't.
Yeah, part of me would think it's my right, but I'd be curious to see. Because so even when you're not competing now, you still do it.
Well, it's just ingrained as
Yeah.
part of what I
Okay.
do, so I don't think about it.
Lorianne Munzer joins us. Now, the individual part of handling your day, I understood. What I found intriguing from what Coach Woodcroft said was he talked about the standard. Worry about the standard we have here as a group. So, and I know, like, how do you think you can do that? And what goes into maintaining a standard? How do you do that in a team sport? Individual, I think it'd be a little bit easier because it's your standard. How do you think you go about that? And is that more of a challenge in a group setting?
At first, I would say it's probably a bigger challenge than it is because it is the belief, it's accepting that this is the standard and it becomes the gold medal standard. And then the question becomes, are you playing at a gold medal standard? If you're not, okay, where are you? But where do you want to be? And if you're on a team, everybody has to be in harmony, right?
Yeah.
And that is when everybody has accepted, or you say in layman's term, you buy into the idea. So your mind will, well, you have two choices. Either you buy in or you don't. Either you do it or you don't. And there isn't a halfway medium. When there's certain lines that click better than others, you take off a player or a player's injured, you mix it up. And it really, you got to get back on your feet and you got to start communicating in a different way. But that communication is really, really, really important because we've got different personalities and everybody has a different perspective. So the question is, can you get everybody lined up to the gold standard? That's the easiest way I could think about it.
Text coming in, wondering from Steve, would you switch it around as a routine breaker to keep your mind open?
Can you repeat that again?
Would you switch around your routine left to right, right to left to keep your mind open?
Not a chance.
Okay.
Certain things, yes. Certain things like that, no.
Okay.
When it comes to equipment, absolutely not. It would be like saying if you're a left winger, I'm a left winger, is giving me a right-handed stick. Maybe for practice, for drills, and for playing things. I was at Millennium Place about a year ago, and I was doing my yoga thing, so my eyes were closed, and I heard a guy come in, and he started swinging. He was a golfer. And then all of a sudden, I heard a shift that was really different. And it was like, well, why is there a difference in sound? He had switched hands. So there's a whole different game when you switch sides. But when you're going to play a championship game, you want those things to be in order. You're not thinking about the little things.
Yeah.
It's those things are already in a routine. You've got it. That's it. That's all. You're not even thinking about it because you've got a bigger focus to think about and worry about. But it's not worrying about. It's you got to let go and you got to let the game unfold and you need to respond versus react.
One last one for you, Lorianne. The difference between superstitious and just focused routine.
Big difference. Superstition is normally you're scared about something. Or it's a myth, you've heard it, you've adopted it, and you believe it.
What's an example of a superstition for you?
I was superstitious. I would never take a bath before I raced the next day because my legs were like Jell-O. And the problem was I sat in the tub way too long. So I was like, I'm not sitting in the tub. I'm going in. I'm all business. Let's have a shower, get ready, and go the night before because that was part of my routine. So I was superstitious that, if I had a bath or if I even got into a whirlpool, and just, hot tub, that'd be great. And it is great. But the day before a race, not a chance. Never. Nope.
Now, had you done it for 5 minutes, would it have been okay or would it never be
nope,
good?
It's not at all. It's a non-negotiable. Not at all. No.
All right.
No. Because I didn't want
So when did you switch from knowing the bath to shower? You're all of a sudden one day you're like, I'm out. I'm done. No more baths. Like, how do you come to that point?
Well, Saturday night, I had a really long hot bath. It was awesome. Sunday morning, I sucked. So I'm just like, I'm not taking that chance.
Oh, okay.
So I figured it out.
You figured it out?
And it was like, yeah, no, I won't do that again.
Yeah. Now, but what was that the reason you sucked?
I'm going to tell you, yes, of course. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But, it's part and parcel of it. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes if you believe it, sometimes that's all that matters when it comes to what puts you in the best form. It doesn't harm anyone else, right? So I don't want to say, hey, whatever you believe, that's allowed. Like there's certain beliefs out there. We're talking in sports and athletics and preparation for whatever. If you feel that, man, if I have an orange, I play better than if I have a banana, whatever, right? If that's what you feel, then that's okay. But you don't want it to be where it starts to, you have to think about, did I do all of my things, right? If it becomes routine where you're not thinking about it, that's probably healthy. When you have to think about it, that's unhealthy.
It's a distraction.
Okay.
So if it's at like just, it's a shinny game, it's not a problem. But if you're talking Stanley Cup, sorry, you're dialed in. It's like when I went to the Olympics, there was no family who came. There was no guests. There was nothing. It was just me. My coach was available on cell phone. It was the other side of the world that I was. So it would be like midnight here.
Your coach didn't even come?
No. He was at the Rose and Crown watching the race. Yeah, with all my coworkers. Yeah, and then the courier guys.
And you wanted that. You didn't want your coach there.
Well, number one, we couldn't get him there because we couldn't get accreditation. Number two, I didn't have a budget to do it.
Okay.
Number three, it was like, well, I would be worrying about where was he if I needed him. How could I get a hold of him?
Okay.
When he was here, then we could.
You knew where he was. Just
yeah.
keep your phone on.
Exactly.
That was the only rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Lori, great stuff as always. Have an awesome weekend. We'll tune in with you and Kevin Carris Monday morning.
You betcha. Have a good weekend.
That is a two-time Olympian Lori-Ann Munzer joins us every Friday at 3:00. We'll come back. We're going to Ottawa. They got a new owner. What's up with Shane Pinto? We'll find out next on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, live on Sports 1440 and Orders Nation YouTube.
Mr. Rooter hits the links.
So I tell the guy it's leaking.
Pause Friday. How are you? Welcome back. Lots of texts flying in. You can always send emails as well in our Jiffy Lube inbox. Gregor at sports1440.ca or Connor at 1440. Maybe just send Connor like a positive message. His Chargers haven't won a game yet this season. He's kind of down in the dumps. It's Positive Friday. He needs a little pick me up. So, and you know what's good news about our new text system is you can actually send photos. No R-rated photos, okay? But you can send photos, screenshots. We've had a few. So there you go. Now let's go around the NHL, brought to you by McDonald's. We're stop in right now at McDonald's, and $5, man. You can get premium roasted coffee, you get hash brown, and you get your choice chicken or bacon or egg McMuffin right now, only at McDonald's. As we are joined by Brent Wallace, the host, the podcast. Him, Bobby Ryan, do it together. Brent, it's I guess I don't know if anticlimactic's the right word, but today it was a big day because it's official, but everybody's known that this was coming. But for Sens fans, and I'm sure for Mr. Andlauer, they're pretty excited about this. What have you taken away now that it's official and the announcements of kind of the people that are involved in management? What do you see unfolding on the management side moving forward?
Good question. First of all, Jason, just congrats on the new show, man. It's nice to hear you back on the airwaves that way. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Thanks,
on Positive
man.
Friday.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
It's, you know what, this day, although anticlimactic as it is, can't be downplayed how important this actually is. And it's got to be top 5 moments all time with this franchise. And the Andlauer group, I think, won't move as quick as maybe people want. He's been known to be very patient. So he will come in, assess the situation. And now, for those who don't know, they've added Cyril Leader back as the CEO and president of the organization. Cyril Leader is one of the founding members of this organization. He was there on day one, and he was unceremoniously, I'll say fired, although it was a severance package, if you will, 6 years ago. And it's been a dark 6 years since. And so with him back, it feels like, it's almost like when Simba raises up the lion in Lion King. All seems right with the world. And so that's what I think you're seeing right now. So changes, there'll be some for sure. I think it's going to take a bit here. I think you're going to see Cyril come in. Then he's going to start to assess, make some moves. Who he adds right away, I'm not sure. But we've all heard the Steve Staios rumors, as you guys have heard them in Edmonton. So I think that's a big one that's probably likely to happen.
Well, the fact that his name's no longer on any one of the web pages in Edmonton makes it feel like it's a foregone conclusion.
I'm not stepping out of bounds here by saying I'm pretty sure Steve Staios is joining the organization.
Yeah, I think that is a very fair thing to say.
If I'm not mistaken, are they not neighbors in Toronto? Steve and Michael Andlauer. I think they're neighbors.
I'd heard that. I definitely couldn't confirm it, but yes, I'd also heard that. So that would, although
they haven't given me out their mailing address.
No, and not all neighbors get along, so you never know. But yes,
it's very true.
Something tells me that they probably know what each other is up to at this point. Yeah. The big question in Ottawa, Shane Pinto. You look at the salary cap. You look at maybe what he's looking for. And unfortunately, he doesn't have a massive amount of negotiating rights at this point. So what is the most realistic conclusion to this situation?
So I know that this, as far as I'm pretty confident this ownership group holds Shane Pinto in high regard.
Yeah.
And they want him in the lineup. So I just think they've waited too long to almost assess the situation or address it, and that they've got to move money. There's no other way around it. They've got to find a way, whether that's through waivers. Although if they're going to do it through waivers, they're going to lose key assets. They're not going to put Matthew Joseph on waivers and think someone's going to take him. So they're going to have to get the abacus out and figure out how to move these people around. And I don't know. It's going to cost them to make the move because now everybody knows. Jared Dorian's up against it to try and make this move happen. But Shane Pinto, I would be shocked if he's not there on opening night.
Okay. Now, the one guy, is it too simple to say?
Jason, sorry, I will just say, he's not being traded. All those rumors,
okay.
I feel 99% confident he is not being traded.
Okay. I like that. When you look at the one guy who might be traded, when I think salary, And I think only 1 year. Like, is Kubalik make the most sense here? There's $2.5 million. Maybe you add a draft pick to it and you move him out. And the team that takes him only has him for 1 year. And it's not because they don't like him. It's, as you said, you got to figure out a way to move some money.
I think they like him though. So I get the sense that he's not on the move. Now anything can happen when you try to. Let's just be honest here. Shane Pinto is more valuable than Dominic Kubalik is to the Ottawa Senators. That's a fact. But I think they really like him, and there has been no discussions or rumors that I have heard that include Dominic Kubalik being moved at the moment. They do have. Now, you can never have enough defensemen, as everybody says, but I feel like they've got to make some decisions on their blue line, and that may be part of a package deal to try and entice someone to maybe take Matthew Joseph, who makes 2.9, or they could move Dominic Kubalik. I don't think right away that he's the guy they're targeting.
So who do you think they are targeting?
Oh, well, Matthew Joseph is the easy target.
Okay.
Third line, the other side of Shane Pinto's wing. So it's right now it looks like it's Dominic Kubalik, Shane Pinto, and Matthew Joseph on the third line. I suspect Matthew Joseph is the one with the tougher contract to move, but he is probably exhibit A of who they would like to maybe relocate.
Brent Wallace joins us from Ottawa. Of course, Andlauer, officially the owner of the Sens today. Shane Pinto still hasn't been able to agree to a contract. What type of number do you think Pinto would come in at when they sign him?
Yeah. So I'm always on a player's side of contract. I always think they should be paid more, which makes me well liked by the players, not so much by management. But like 2.5 doesn't seem crazy to me. I think he's probably he scored 20 goals last year. To have a 20-goal scorer as your third-line center who's very smart defensively, he's a very valuable asset. But they just don't have the money. So does he try to do a bridge deal and hope the cap, obviously it's expected to go up, sign another deal after? This is the tough year to try and get him signed under. Is it signing bonus maybe? I'm not sure. But 2.5 doesn't seem crazy to me. Originally I thought he could get closer to 3, but it seems to be in the 2.5 range.
Okay, so not a crazy amount by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So that's why it would seem doable. And I agree with you. When I'd heard the rumor, though, they're going to trade Pinto, I was like, what? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Those are probably rumors coming from people around the league saying, yeah, trade Shane Pinto, because I think there'd be lots of teams who are interested in him. There's a new ownership. Andlauer, he came out today, and he's had lots of success in his career. He spoke about how, Toronto and Montreal were in between these two major cities. I don't mind being the underdog, and I want to bring things in. I think he's brought in a different swagger to the organization from an ownership group. Obviously, he has deeper pockets than the previous ownership group. Where, do you see him spending more in management and other areas of this organization? And if so, what are they going to be?
So, when you say that swagger, he brings stability. And I think that's the biggest part. We now understand and we can see the vision that's being laid out with Michael Andlauer, because he just wants to win. And he has said this all along. And I remember when the name kind of surfaced, Jason York and I, who's also part of the show with Bobby, we were just Michael Andlauer was the best choice that could have been selected for the Ottawa Senators, regardless of all the celebrity endorsements from Snoop Dogg to Ryan Reynolds. He's a hockey guy through and through. As people know, he's part owner of the Montreal Canadiens. He's the owner of the Hamilton Bulldogs. He's been in the AHL. He just wants to win a title. And he says, it's my passion. I just want to win a Stanley Cup. And I think he will invest everywhere he can. He will, Daniel Alfredson will be back in this organization at some point, which is huge. And then there's the rumor about Peter Chiarelli, who's moved back to Ottawa. I believe he joins in some kind of senior advisor role or something else. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I think he's going to be involved as well. They will look to add. They've already added a full-time analytics person, which they haven't had yet. Used to just be a part-time person. I think you'll see some serious beefing up in the front office.
Peter Chiarelli. I know in Edmonton that name, Oiler fans are just I get it. They find it laughable. Now, hey, he did have a really good run in Boston. There's no debate about it. He built that team, especially their entire back end, right? Started with him bringing Chara with him, and he made some mistakes. Yeah, he was good in Ottawa. He was terrible in Edmonton, and I think what was frustrating about his time in Edmonton was like the moves he made were so like, I get if you make one bad move, but they just compiled and like not even close to good moves. That's what I think was surprising.
Okay. So let me put it to you. I understand what you're saying completely. However, and you guys, I think in Edmonton can relate to Ottawa in that there's been a lot of people talking about moves that Pierre Dorion may have made that may have been made by someone who writes the check. And so there's a lot of talk about Edmonton that perhaps he wasn't always the guy that were making these decisions and that they were influenced by other people higher up in corner offices. Correct? Am I wrong in saying that?
No, not completely. But I just like Peter Chiarelli. I think he kind of didn't communicate great with his own people, and then like his own coach told him don't trade Ryan Strome, man. Like I need a center, and then he didn't listen to him and traded him for Spooner.
Yes, that didn't go so well. But I understand people make like mistakes making moves and stuff. Like we're talking about trading human beings around and hoping they fit into all these roles that we expect them to do. But I think that if you put Peter Chiarelli in the right position, then he's fine. I think he's a really smart hockey guy. I just, for whatever reason, Edmonton just wasn't the right fit.
But when you say
when he left to Ottawa, Jason, that year during the lockout, and then he goes and joins Boston, like he was regarded as the next GM of the Ottawa Senators, and he was well respected throughout the league as a great hockey mind. I don't think that he's just lost that. I think he's still that guy, and we will see him, if he comes to Ottawa, eventually find that way again.
What role do you think he would come in Ottawa?
So there's two, but I think it's senior advisor.
Okay.
Only because I believe Steve Staios is like a president of hockey ops, and then is he the GM? I don't know if he comes in and is the GM. And so there's lots of talk about Matthew Darsh coming in and joining this organization. As far as I know, he's still gainfully employed with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't know exactly how all the roles shake out. They're still, as far as I know, trying to figure out a role and a title for Daniel Alfredson and what he's going to do. So where this all plays out, I'm not sure. And I don't know that Pierre Dorion is going anywhere for a few months at least. He may stay. He's got 2 years left on his deal. There's nothing to say that he doesn't fulfill that either. But all signs point to when you become an owner and you've spent, $1 billion. I mean, it's not all his money, but he owns $1 billion franchise. He wants to be surrounded by his people. I think that's just common sense.
Yeah, no, that's totally valid. That happens all the time. Lastly, when you look at this Senators team, there's the Sens, there's the Sabres, there's the Red Wings. Then you throw in the Penguins because they didn't make the playoffs. Like, man, it's gonna be a tough conference to make the playoffs. When you look at Ottawa, is their blue line good enough? Because I think they got enough good forwards. Is their blue line good enough to be a playoff team this year?
See, and we debate this all the time on our show, is even if it is good enough, and I think this team is good enough to be in the playoffs or push for a playoff spot, who are you taking out? Like you've got Toronto, Tampa, and Boston. I know they lost a lot of players, but that's still the Boston Bruins. Florida, and then you've got Buffalo, and that's the Atlantic. Detroit, I think they could be better than Detroit. Maybe they're not, but they're close. Like, who are you taking out to be possibly top three? And if not, then the wild card is that you've got a whole other kettle of fish. For the Ottawa Senators to make the postseason is going to be a grind. They're going to stay healthy and have a lot of things go right, I think.
Yeah, no.
But I will say that there's the first time there's a really strong feeling in this city that believes that now they're on the right path.
Well, they should be an exciting team at bare minimum, right? They've got Sanderson's exciting. I love how Tkachuk plays the game. Stützle, And lastly, Josh Norris. Any concern about him right now, health wise?
So to the naysayer and the media guy in me, I'm like, are you kidding me? 8 months and now he's still not ready to go? Like what is going on? But the people I've talked to, which includes players, there's no concern that he's not going to be ready to go. Now, I guess I have to take the word at it, but it seems like it's fine. It's just a minor, trying to hold him out for now. I think that there was a report a couple of months ago, and I'm pretty sure it's from Ladois, that said he likely wouldn't be playing in the first couple of exhibition games. So I think this has kind of been a plan all along, even though they said they just tweaked it. I think there's no rush in getting Josh Norris into a preseason game.
Awesome stuff, Brent. We really appreciate it, man. Enjoy the pod, and we'll be talking again soon.
Have a great weekend.
That is Brent Wallace from Ottawa. So Andlauer's the new owner. Sounds like he thinks Chiarelli's coming in. And hey, maybe. Now, senior advisor, that's always, how do you evaluate that role, right? That's what's always a challenge. You don't know. But he is right. He had a really good run in Ottawa and Boston, and then the wheels kind of fell off in Edmonton. Like, he had 2 years of just some of the most head-scratching decisions ever. Like, it's almost as like, I won a Stanley Cup. I know everything. And so, people can learn from it. Like, if that's like, Peter Chiarelli's never, like, he's not a bad human being, right? He just made some bad decisions as a GM. So I could see when you consider, other people that got opportunities, hey, his opportunity to be in the league again is based solely on some bad managerial moves, which happens to a lot of people. He just had a pretty good stretch of it consecutively. It's Around the NHL, brought to you by McDonald's. We'll return. We have Wanye Gretz coming up after 4 o'clock. We got the fantasy report. Mitchell, Spector, also Luke Wilson will join us, talk a little NFL, and we'll hear from some of the Oilers, as of course, day 2 of training camp. Nothing earth-shattering today other than expect McLeod back sooner than Matthias Ekholm. That's probably the biggest takeaway today from the Oilers, is that McLeod looks to be sooner. The Oilers, of course, remember, tomorrow, 10 a.m., open practice. The scrimmage starts at 11. You can get in, sit in the lower bowl. That's tomorrow from 10 until 1. And then they have their first preseason game on Sunday. No lineup set yet. If I'm basing things off of last year, I don't know if McDavid will play or Draisaitl. They might wait a bit just based on how things unfolded last year. I would think kind of 3 games is likely what you're going to see from McDavid in the preseason. Maybe they stretch it to 4, but I could see it being 3. We'll come back on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
For a limited time at
Plaza Friday on the Jason Gregor Show. Welcome back. Alongside Connor Halley, Declan Kruger running things online on the YouTube channel. If you haven't been there, check it out. Hit the subscribe button. It's always nice. We'll also give some tickets away there later today. We have loads of texts to get to. 833-401-1440. There's a few. Hey, guys, would it make sense for Ottawa to structure a Pinto contract similar to Connor Brown's? Lowest possible cap hit with easy-to-acquire performance bonuses. Then negotiate an extension during the season. Pinto gets the money he wants his worth, and Ottawa doesn't have to take a bath trying to dump either a bad contract or decent value player. Well, two things here. Number one, Connor Brown was a very rare exception that he was able to get a bonus-laden contract. The only people that could have bonuses in their contract are either entry-level deals or players who are 35 years of age or older, or a player like Brown who missed basically a full season because he only played 4 games and was coming off an injury. That's about it. Shane Pinto doesn't qualify for a contract that has bonuses in it, as like 90% of the league don't. So they couldn't look at that, even if they wanted to. Hey, guys, what do you think is appropriate attire for a diehard Oiler fan to wear to the Canucks training camp and scrimmage tomorrow? My brother and young nephews are going. They're huge Canuck fans. Do I wear a Gretzky jersey, Draisaitl McDavid, Oiler shirt, or a hat? Looking forward to coming to Edmonton and watch a game for my home team, Chris in Victoria. You know, Chris, it's an interesting question because this is where I stand and some people can disagree with me. I think, like, I've been to games in Edmonton. Edmonton is playing the Winnipeg Jets, and a guy's in the crowd wearing a Montreal Canadiens jersey. And I'm kind of like, why? You know what? If he's wearing a hat, I don't think it stands out as much. And you're like, hey, I want to show I'm loyal to my team. I'm not really rooting for any of these teams. That's fine. To me, if you go to a sporting event for 2 teams, but you wear a jersey of other teams in the league, like just me, I could be wrong. But I'm like, no one cares if you're a big-time Oiler fan. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I view it. So, yeah, I think a hat would be fine. Connor, where do you come out on this? Like, if you go to a Chargers-Broncos game, and there's a guy wearing a Jets jersey, you're kind of like, why do you need to tell us you're a Jets fan?
Well, because you don't want to be loyal to the other 2 teams
so then
playing.
Just wear a T-shirt.
You very well could do that. Yeah, 100%. Now, I will say, I went to a Bucks and Washington football team, the Commanders. You wore a Chargers jersey? And I wore a Chargers jersey. And I heard it, and I took it in stride. I said, hey, that's fine. They were handing out Tampa Bay Buccaneers hats as like a fan appreciation.
Yeah.
So I threw it on. I said, you know what? I'll wear this. I'm representing the Bucks today, but I'm a Chargers fan. So, you know, you have to expect you're going to get razzed. Like, and you take it in stride. I would do the same. It's like when I go to an Elks game and I see an NFL jersey, it's kind of like, well, what are you doing, man? As long as you can accept that and you're okay with it, I say wear your Oilers.
So basically, you're opening yourself up for grief.
Yeah, you got to know what's coming though.
Sure.
And don't, if you get chirped, don't be chirping back. Just say, yeah, I know. Yeah. I think that's what you got to do. You just got to own it.
It's good. Hey, Gregor, you sure did start a heated debate in my group chat on a discussion on not firing Schwartz. Well, yeah. Ask the guys in your group chat if they have any actual data to back up the misguided opinion. That's all I ask. Because people say, well, Gregor, why is Schwartz still here? Well, here's the question. Ask yourself, why have none of the head coaches who get to choose their coaching staff wanted to move on from him? Why do people around the NHL speak very highly of him as a goalie coach? You have people who aren't goalie coaches, who don't know the position of goalie, who claim that he's a bad coach because Mikko Koskinen didn't turn into an all-star. Mikko Koskinen was a 31-year-old player who had never been in the NHL, and the Oilers signed him because they were desperate to find a goalie. And you're going to blame the goalie coach because this guy wasn't elite? Like, think about how stupid that is. Right? Think about it. So, I don't get it. Right? And everyone's like, well, they haven't developed a young goalie. Yes, they have. It's called Stuart Skinner. But because Dylan Wells didn't develop, that means it's terrible? No. Does that mean your defense coach is terrible because the 5th-round draft pick defenseman that the Oilers took in 2016 hasn't panned out? I don't think I would hear people say that. Right? I don't get it. So I think Schwartz has actually developed a pretty good young goalie in Skinner, and they've got Rodri coming. I don't know if he's going to make it or not, but at least he's developing in a good trajectory. So people just like to complain. And I think when they're frustrated, they're like, you know what? I got to blame someone. And that's fine. It's okay. But it's a ridiculous claim when you don't have any data to back it up. So I would just ask them, show me the data. What backs it up? Hey, Mike Smith had career years in Edmonton. Oh, geez. Goalie coach must be terrible in his late 30s. Stuart Skinner has developed nicely ever since being drafted. And the only goalie coach he's worked with is Dustin Schwartz. So I don't get it. That's all. I don't understand it. Hey, Gregor, could Sutter get a deferred bonus-laden contract? Yes. However, why would you give him a bonus? Like, why would the Oilers do it? Like Connor Brown had signed for $3.6 million the year before, right? He does it because he gets his money and it kind of helps the Oilers in the cap situation this year. Like Sutter's going to get what? The league minimum? You don't need to give him why would you make it more? Like, I'm sure he would ask for it, but why, if you were the Oilers, would you want more dead cap space next year to sign Brandon Sutter, who hasn't played for 2 seasons? Right? It doesn't, he's not in a position, whereas, there wasn't teams lining up to sign him. Connor Brown had lots of teams who wanted to sign him, and he opted to go to Edmonton. He got the money, but he helps them do the cap this year. Now, keep in mind that next year there's probably going to be a lot of bonus overages that hurts the Oilers' cap situation. So, hey, guys, I think the only time when wearing a jersey of a team not playing is at the Grey Cup or the Super Bowl from Moonwatcher. Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense, right? Because those are tickets that people buy at the start of a year because it's an event and they want to go. No one knows who's in the game when you buy your ticket. So that's fair. Regular season game, you know who you're going to see, 100%. So I can get it. So
the Grey Cup just kind of feels like a celebration of Canadian football, right? Like you're partying with people from all the other fan bases, wherever it might be. You're going to the Spirit of Edmonton room, having drinks with people from Ottawa or whatever. So yeah, I kind of like to see it there at the Grey Cup. I feel like the Super Bowl is a little bit more commercial, but you still see jerseys from everywhere. Because like you said, you're buying the tickets so far in advance, just in case your team makes it. It's a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, guys, regarding Schwartz, why do other goalies, Tristan Jarry this summer, Carter Hart, use him as a goalie coach when training the offseason? Diaz from the Bridge. Hey, Diaz, whoa. You're making too much sense now, right? The anti-Schwartz crowd, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal in rational thought. They just want to yell, fire him, because it makes them feel better. So, just how it goes. Hey, Greg's, wear whatever jersey you want for whatever reason. Wear Blue Jays jersey in order game. Who cares? Victor. Well, Victor, you cared enough to text in. So you slightly care. Like I said, people want to do it. Go right ahead. Chris asked for my opinion. I gave him my opinion. I would just wear a hat. I wouldn't wear a jersey. Plus it's like a scrimmage game, right? Now, if you went to a Flames Canucks game and you wanted to rile up the fan base, sure. But then keep in mind, you might have to deal with a few of the less than intelligent fans. That's always the, there's always that part of it. So we'll see. Connor, I'll be at US Bank on Sunday cheering for your Chargers. Can't stand the Vikings. From C. Patrick.
Now I wonder,
are they going to get a win this week?
No, of course not.
They're going 0-3.
They're going to go 0-3.
Well, see, are you saying that because you really want Staley to get fired now? Like, I think you've jumped, which is okay,
No.
but you're fully on the fire Brandon Staley right now, aren't you?
I am, yes. I would rather the Chargers win than, lose just to get rid of the head coach. I'd rather them, if they can rattle off, 15 straight wins, that'd be fantastic. But I just don't see it. And their defense doesn't adapt. And you're going up against a good coach with the Vikings. I feel like their secondary is going to get shredded. But so the question is, can't stand the Vikings, so he's cheering on my Chargers. Who is C. Patrick's team, and will he wear a jersey or a hat?
Oof. Let him know, St. Patrick.
That's a great stadium, though. It's going to be a fun game. The environment there is wild.
833-401-1440 is the text line. Let's get to the con man and a sports 1440 update brought to you by BIE Engineering. Specialize in all your residential, commercial, and industrial structural engineering needs. Go to BIEENG.com.
You got Wanye behind you. Wanye's right there, yeah. The Edmonton Elks in action tonight. They're hosting the BC Lions just after 7:30 down at Commonwealth. Looking to make it 3 straight. Earlier on in the evening, you'll have Ottawa taking on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That gets going at 5. Major League Baseball, Jays in action. In about 40 minutes, they're down in Tampa taking on the Rays. Also, Marlins host the Brewers. Pirates take on the Reds. Yankees welcome the Diamondbacks to the Bronx. The Braves in Washington taking on the Nationals. Phillies host the Mets. Orioles in Cleveland. Red Sox hosting the White Sox. Big series this weekend between the Mariners and the Rangers kicks off at 6, and the Astros hosting the Royals. One final from earlier today. Cubbies down the Rockies 6-0. San Francisco 49ers announced today that they've signed general manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan to multi-year contract extensions. They both joined the team in 2017 and have since led the organization to 3 postseason appearances and 1 Super Bowl appearance. Fantasy update: Austin Eckler, Anthony Richardson, Justice Hall, Bryce Young have all been ruled out this Sunday. The Edmonton Oil Kings kick off their 2023-24 season tonight in Red Deer. Rematch tomorrow. Home opener down in the Ice District. Puck drop at 7. The Golden Bears are in Vancouver taking on UBC. That one also gets going at 7. In the AJ Spruce Grove in Olds tonight. Tomorrow out at the Grant Fuhr Arena, they'll host Olds. That's a 7 o'clock start. And Sherwood Park on the road this weekend. In Brooks tonight and Drumheller tomorrow. Also, Huskies, Hilltops, Sunday, 1 o'clock at JP Bowl. And the Wildcats are in Winnipeg taking on the Rifles. That one's starting at 7. Coming up in hour number 3 of the Jason Gregor Show. We'll be joined by Wanye, Gretz, and we'll ask 5 questions.
Friday on Sports 1440. It is the Jason Gregor Show. Also live on Oilers Nation YouTube. Hit the subscribe button if you're a subscriber. Could win tickets to Sunday's Tilt. Oilers and the Jets. I don't know who's going to be in the lineup yet, just so you know. So don't text it and ask because we don't know yet who will be in the lineup. There will be an open scrimmage tomorrow for fans who want to go down to Rogers. Doors open at 10. The scrimmage starts at 11. There's a practice at 10 o'clock before. Then they scrimmage. Then there's another practice afterwards. So basically, you can be there for 3 hours from 10 until 1 if you so choose. I think the scrimmage is basically an hour from 11 until 12 o'clock. So there you go. The Gregor Show is always presented by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca. 20 mil up for grabs tonight. Lotto Max. And tomorrow, Lotto 649, 66. It's the Mario Lemieux of Gold Ball Lottery. Jeez. And I have to get in on that. Whoa. We've always talked like, what would you do? All I've said is if one of our listeners wins, like, buy us a box of, Cinnabon or something at a minimum, Maybe you could buy Connor a new Chargers jersey. Right, he probably needs an updated one. His LaDainian Tomlinson one's getting a little, it's a little tight. Maybe it's a little frayed. So probably could. Do you have a Herbert jersey?
Oh yeah,
you do?
The day after he was drafted, I bought one.
Oh,
I was committed to him.
How many other current Charger jerseys do you have?
I got a couple Bosa's, Khalil Mack, Keenan Allen. I have never gone for Eckler. I have Derwin James.
Wow,
I had a couple. Oh, Asante Samuel Jr.
Guts. Wow, you love your jerseys. Good for you.
I do. Yeah, I've started giving some away, the older ones, because I'm trying to recruit new Chargers fans. So I just give them the old ones.
Yeah. Or your wife's clean out some of the space in the closet. I think that might be the better answer.
She has a Herbert jersey. I don't think she's ever worn it.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez. You might have to make a little wager with her to get her in that thing. Figure it out, con man.
Come on a Sunday.
Freshly,
boys.
Freshly married. You know how it works. Let's go. Let's welcome in to the studio our weekly Friday co-host from OilersNation.com, Wanye Gretz. Wanye, how are you?
You think one day I'll get a Chargers jersey, Uncle Gregor?
Pretty sure no. Do you even know who the Chargers are?
I thought you meant like a phone charger.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Apple. Ooh,
Yeah,
Apple. Samsung.
Yeah. You like jerseys. You have quite a few
Oilers jerseys. Oh, yeah. I got my Yakupov 6'4". Got the Connor McDavid jersey that I got before he got drafted with a Captain C already on it. So when he got drafted, I put it on at the bar and everybody cheered like I'd been drafted. One of the top moments in me and Connor's life. Easily.
So you were there at his draft day and you had already purchased the jersey. So you were the first guy in the bar with a McDavid jersey.
And this is the only time in my life I've ever fessed up to being the Oilers Nation guy to the store. They're like, we can't make McDavid jerseys. We've been told. And I was like, listen to me. I'm the Oilers Nation guy and I need it. And the guy was like, I'll get it done. I said, I got to get a Captain C on it as well. He's like, you're really pushing your luck. And I was like, I'll get it done.
All
and
right.
I've had it ever since then. So that's the first McDavid Captain's jersey ever.
Ooh. And you have a Yakupov. You must have an Eberle.
Got an Eberle. Yeah, I got.
You had a Reed Schaefer.
Got a Reed Schaefer 53. Got his training camp 53 put on after he got dealt. Got a Zach Hyman. Got a Gretzky. Really lucky. When I was little, I didn't have any Oilers jerseys. And I always really wanted one. They were so expensive. So to return now to my childhood dreams with my adult-sized wallet, I'd sooner wear 3 Oilers jerseys than a suit.
So if you had to buy one this year, right now, what would be the most confident jersey you'd be? If I purchase this player's, because you feel they're going to have a good season.
The next jersey I'm buying is going to be my son's first jersey. And I need to get a number on the back. And I'm trying to think about who is going to be a player that when he's only 3, If I get him like a 5-year-old jersey now, who can he grow into and have that be his first Oiler fan? Like he's a fan of.
So, yeah, well, I thought you would pick McDavid, saying,
Do you,
I think
though?
he's going to re-sign.
I think he'll resign for sure. But is that who you try to teach a little kid, or do you try to get him like an unsung hero, right?
Yeah, maybe. But the thing about little kids, I find, is they will gravitate towards the player whose name's there the most, unless they have an interaction with him. Then that changes.
Or maybe a goalie. Some little kids love goalies. When I was little, I loved goalies above all else. I thought the equipment was cool. I thought the blocker and the glove was cool. Yeah, I thought it was way cooler to be a goalie than anything.
Well, that explains a lot.
But for my own jersey, if I was to get a new Oilers jersey this year, I don't know. I think there's a spot in the lineup in my heart open right now that Reed Schaefer's early departure has left, and somebody's free to take, like on a PTO, you can be that guy.
Brandon Sutter.
I'll make memes about you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll yell at you on Twitter and tag you in it half the time. I have a lot to offer as your super fan.
After listening to Brandon Sutter, we had lots of texts yesterday. We played his comments about what he dealt with the last few years, and how the first step was just, once with his parents, they just said, hey, stop worrying about playing hockey. You got to worry about getting better. You got a family, you got to be a husband and a father. And so, because he had real shortness of breath for a long time. So you get frustrated, you can't do anything. You can barely play with his kids. So it was very frustrating for him. But once his dad and mom kind of convinced him that don't worry about hockey. Hockey's not like, that's something you like to do. That's not who you are. You're a father, you're a husband, do that. And so they said that helped him. For about the last 6 to 8 months, he's felt better. He's been able to train. If he makes it back to the NHL and signs a contract, regardless of how great he plays, he will be one that Oiler fans, I think, because everybody knows McDavid's great and Draisaitl's great. And, Nugent Hopkins has a pretty big support group. Lots of people like Hyman, lots of people like Kane, right? Lots of people like Bouchard, right? So you go down the list. Stuart Skinner, they love the mustache. So I think if I would, based on how I've seen Oiler fans react in the past, there's 2 players that I think they will get behind this year if they play well. One is Sutter. Actually, if he just makes the team. The other one is Jack Campbell. I think there's a lot of Oiler fans that are quietly rooting for Jack Campbell to bounce back. They like saying soup. It's an easy one to cheer. No, that's true. Like, it's easy to cheer.
It's true.
But I think most fans and most human beings are kind of like, there's something about the comeback story that resonates with people.
And Campbell's a very likable person, too.
Yeah,
So
because he never
interviews,
shied away from being bad, right?
at all.
Like, you could see it. And like, anybody who watches, like, God, he's playing poorly, but it's not like he's like oblivious to it. Right, like he was all. If anything, they're like, "Geez, the guy's too hard on
himself."
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so the redemption story, I could see it. I could see Oilers fans loving it, but we can't displace the mustache.
Oh no, not all. I think both goalies. I think I don't see one goalie unless there's an injury playing more than 50 games. I just don't see it.
Really?
And even Stuart Skinner playing 48. I'm not sure that he'll play that many again. If Jack Campbell, like either one guy, the other guy's got to be terrible or really struggling, or injured. Otherwise, I think you're going to see like 48 would be the top. I think you're going to see one goalie at 46 at the most, like a 46, 36, 44, 38, 43, 39 type of split. Hey guys, Wanye needs to get his kid an Uncle Bouchard jersey.
Ooh, well, there's a lot to love there, but you don't want to give the kid something where he's going to go around the arena and get hassled by all the Bouchard haters. You don't want to deal your kid a hater jersey.
I don't know if is there that many Bouchard haters?
He hasn't signed his new deal yet.
Yeah, but he just signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah, but the next deal is the one that's going to make him.
True.
Darnell Nurse used to be beloved almost universally by Oilers fans.
No.
I think that he wasn't nearly as hated on until he got this new contract.
Well, the vocal people are always. I think there's lots of people that respect Darnell Nurse's game, and like I've said, I've told many people, if you want to say he's overpaid, sure, by what? Like $1 million? At most, but even then at $1 million, if you look at the going rate, the average salary of the other guys who all signed, and I'm not including Cale McCarthy, he's not a UFA, so it doesn't count. I'm talking Morgan Riley, I'm talking Werenski, I'm talking Seth Jones, I'm talking Dougie Hamilton. We're all signed in the same period of time. The average salary of those players is 8.5. So if Darnell Nurse is $725,000 overpaid, and who's one of Connor McDavid's best friends, and if Nurse being on contract when McDavid knows, hey, if I resign, I know that Nurse is here for another 4 or 5 years. If that's even a 1% part of the
He's
equation,
worth every penny.
then it's worth it.
Every penny.
Yeah, like I don't like Darnell Nurse. Could Darnell Nurse be a bit more consistent at times? Yes. But also Darnell Nurse does a lot of really good things that go unnoticed because he'll make certain simple plays or a hard play look easy. And people are like, well, it's not that difficult, but it is pretty difficult. And he's played more minutes than any defenseman in the NHL against elite players the last 2 seasons. Anybody. So guess what? Sometimes he's going to get scored on more because the guys he faces have more skill.
I think that Oilers fans, especially long-term Oilers fans, have some sort of mental condition, though, because we all remember the first time they opened up the vault and they signed Sean Horkoff, and then he went to the All-Star game and then blew out his shoulder and then was suddenly like a really expensive Oiler that people were hating on. That was the first time we'd ever seen somebody here that didn't necessarily have the case for a really huge contract. Prior to that point, we used to lose guys like David Oliver over $100,000. So I think there's a section of Oilers fans that anytime anyone gets a big ticket deal, immediately the microscopes are going to come out.
That's fair. Well, but I think that's human. There are some people that there's, whether they want to admit to it or not, there's a part of envy or not, or if they dislike a player, it's easy to say, yeah, his contract. It's easy to always just point to the contract, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If every fan liked every player evenly, it'd be boring. Like, let's be honest. It would be absolutely boring if everyone's like, oh, I love this guy the same as you. Let's sing Kumbaya. It's fantastic. Like, it's not going to happen.
I see the reverse. I now see, looking at the NFL and NBA, anyone making more than Connor McDavid, I'm a hater of them immediately. I'm like, that guy makes that amount of money to play from the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you know what Connor McDavid does for $12.5 million US? Anybody making 1 cent more than that is a ripoff.
That's interesting. See, I see like Alan Walsh all the time on Twitter. Look at the NHL. And I'm like, it's simple business. The top guys in the NHL don't make, well, A, basketball has a way smaller roster, right? B, they have a way smaller roster and an infinitely bigger salary cap.
And only 5 guys ever are really getting paid. The rest are long-term bench sitters, and they have a drastically reduced contract. Their TV deals, though, are so crazy now, Gregor. In the NBA,
oh yeah,
like every single contract now that's being signed in the NBA, it's like that's the highest paid player. That's the highest paid player ever. It's like annual inflation. The biggest deal ever gets signed every offseason.
Guys, if Nurse wants to justify his contract, he needs to get 65 points from Mark. See, I'll disagree, Mark. It's virtually impossible to get 65 points if you're not a power play defenseman. Right? Like getting 65 even strength points. I'd actually go back and look in the history of the NHL because Darnell Nurse, you know what, he gets what does he get? Like the last few seconds on a power play now. And in Edmonton, Bouchard takes the majority of it, which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. So I see what you're saying, but the funny part about it is if you actually look at Darnell Nurse's production 5-on-5 as a defenseman, you don't really have any complaints. It's hard to complain about his 5-on-5 scoring because he's right up there. So if you just look at the last 3 years, only for defensemen, and you look at even strength points, where is Nurse? Nurse is he is 12th. Brent Burns, Justin Falk, Quinn Hughes, Shea Theodore, Adam Fox, Victor Hedman, Cale Makar, Roman Josi, Eric Carlson. But here's a fun little trivia question. Do you know which defenseman leads all NHLers in even strength scoring the last 3 years? I'll let the audience see if they can figure that out. Don't look it up. NHL defenseman with the most even strength points the last 3 seasons. Do you know who it is without looking? Text in 833-401-1440. Do you have a guess, Wanye?
I think do I have a guess? Of course. Is it right? 50-50. Can I guess the team?
We'll just guess the player.
Is he on Pittsburgh?
Guess the player.
No, I want to know if I have the team right first. I'm cheating.
You're saying Chris Letang?
I am indeed.
He has fewer points.
Drat. But I didn't say Letang. I only said the team.
He actually has the same amount of points as Darnell Nurse, even strength.
Oh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No.
Oh, Letang does.
Yes.
Darnell Nurse also, in terms of answering the bell when he's required on the ice, is one of the top Oilers in all of memory. That guy always stands up for his teammates. That guy always goes flying into scrums. And you don't price that into the stat sheet. Penalty minutes, I suppose. But you should put a value on that. Is that worth $750 to you?
Let's see. Quick break. We'll return. Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440. When we come back, we will be joined by Wanye's uncle on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Ain't it beautiful? What does excellence mean to you, and how does it impact your decisions? Friends, it's Carrie Dahl, and I know that at Volvo Cars Edmonton, excellence isn't an option, it's their everything. From customer satisfaction in sales, service, inventory.
Regret it. Taxes extra. Price and participation may vary.
Pause. The Friday continues on. Edmonton sports leader, Sports 1440. Jason Gregor, Wanye Gretz with you alongside Connor Halley. And hey, it's fitting. We're going to call an audible right now. We'll move things around. Our next guest, he'd be very comfortable. I don't know how many audibles he's had in his career, but I got to guess 100. So it shouldn't be any big deal, as we will get to our NFL report now, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling, where the rates never change. If all of a sudden your furnace cracks out, it's the middle of the night, call Legacy. Never any overtime charges. That's how you build a legacy at legacyheating.ca. We are joined by a former NFL tight end. He is a current analyst on TSN. Very good takes. And, Jay Onright does mention his hair a little bit. Luke Wilson joins us now. Luke, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. I appreciate you having me.
What now? Did you ever use Pert Plus? What are you using in that coif up there?
Yeah, you know what? I've gone through a variety of different shampoos and stuff. Sometimes I've kind of gone back and forth from like really long to mid-range to like the hockey hair. So, I got 15 years of shampoo usage. I've pretty much tried it all.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, when you played, you had the long lock. How often did guys grab your hair, either purposely or accidentally in games?
For me, it was pretty rare. The times when it got like super long, it would kind of like rest almost below my shoulders on the front. So it wasn't so much like getting tackled. You'll see that the odd time. I've never had that happen. But more so like when I'm in the trenches blocking, you're always fighting for like hand position, inside hands on a guy's chest. So there's a few times where that would kind of yank at it, and that was never a great feeling.
Did you ever have an old school coach look at you sideways and tell you need to cut your hair like it was the 70s?
Not really. To be honest, I always joke. So I was a 5th round pick, and when the Seahawks tight end coach came down after pro day, they did a little bit of a workout, and I had long hair. And for whatever reason, after the draft process, or let's call it right before the draft, I had cut my hair. So he would always rag me and be like, son, I came down here. Went down to Rice and was telling everyone we got a Tarzan tight end. We got a draft, kind of an under-the-radar guy, and you show up looking like this guy. Like, where's the long-haired dude at? And I'm like, damn, that's kind of tough. I got to make sure I grow that back. He's got a point there.
And little fans think it's cool because they can identify you on the field, right?
No question. I always think I never really loved having the long hair outside of football. I mean, at points it was funny, but it's kind of a nuisance. But I will say, like, especially when I was playing, it was wildly worth it on game day when you're like ripping around and you just got the hair flown out of the back of the helmet. I always thought that was fun.
Yeah, it makes sense. Luke Wilson joins. Now, look, if I'm not mistaken, you are one of the originators of Techno Thursday. How did it help keep the Seahawks loose? And what did Pete Carroll think about it?
At first, I think everybody was unsure, in a kind of a funny way, but you put in the word techno, and that can mean a variety of things, I feel like we've all had those moments where we're like, wow, this is a great techno song. And then we've also had those moments where like my head is pounding and I'm not really sure what the hell I'm listening to right now. So when I proposed Techno Thursday, it was a bit of a joke, but a little more lighthearted. And, Pete's a big energy guy. So all of a sudden, it was more like a Vegas pool party playlist, a little more EDM style, I guess. And it created a lot of buzz that day. And that's kind of what made it stick, was that everybody was pretty fired up about the tunes that we selected. The first day, we only got, they only let us get 3 tunes in. So then all of a sudden it was like, then it became 4, 5, 6. And then it probably became 7 to 8 per day, which was nice.
And so take us through, like, did you have complete autonomy on the playlist, or who of your teammates started to have input on what was played?
Well, as it went on, it definitely became more of a group effort. But day one, I would say, was myself, a guy named Jordan Roos, and Jimmy Graham.
Okay.
Jimmy, we would kind of all eat lunch together, and I had told him the idea. And I was like, guys, like, I know I like these songs. I know in LaSalle, Ontario, these things were bangers, but I'm like, tell me about your thoughts on this stuff. And that's kind of where it went from there, where they were like, yeah, these are 3 that everybody will kind of know. And that'll get, day one, that'll get the vibes right.
We are joined by Luke Wilson, of course, former tight end, current analyst on the NFL. Let's get to the NFL now, Luke. And I want to talk about your position. Like, the tight end was one, like, you've got obviously some elite tight ends, but there's not a lot of tight ends getting usage right now in the league. Are you surprised? And and why are we not seeing, a lot of guys, A, getting many targets, and B, getting a whole bunch of receptions?
I think that this league is just has a lot of ebb and flow to it. So, at one point it was like, hey, we can go and get these tight ends and create mismatches, etc. And then, defenses eventually catch up. So now all of a sudden you're really seeing linebackers that can cover and safeties that can cover. But on the flip side, a lot, like if you look at the Niners, for example, which right now I think they're arguably the best offense or one of, and very well balanced, part of that is their weapons. But you look at Kittle, and it was like when Kittle first came to the league, they're really using him as a receiving guy. And then all of a sudden it's like Kyle Shanahan gets here, and he obviously caught, I think, 60, 70 yards last night. So it's not like he's not a receiving guy. But Kyle Shanahan's whole offense really stems from his run game. There's a lot of play action. He really wants, to create the big play by, establishing a run game. And in that outside zone style run game, which he has, the tight end is so crucial. And if you have a guy like Kittle that can block and really stretch that edge, that's going to open up huge lanes. So again, it's a bit of a copycat league in a sense. And this is why I'm saying it's kind of one of those things where I think you'll see more tight ends catching the ball maybe towards the end of the year.
Okay.
But right now, everybody's really trying to, emulate, I would say, this style of offense you see from the Niners. I would put the Eagles up there when it comes to the run game. And both Kittle and Goddard, although they can catch the ball in their premier pass-catching tight ends, both of them can really put their hand in the ground. And whether it's a combo or they're really trying to stretch at the end, do a lot in the run game. And that's kind of the shift you're seeing right now. It's back to a more complete version of a tight end.
Yeah, it is. Like, none of them are having huge numbers. It is very early in the season. TJ Hawkinson probably, is off to maybe the best start just on a pure numbers basis. And I think he's caught 15 of the 17 targets. So he's not only getting target locks, he's catching everything that's thrown his way. When you look at where he's come the last few years, Luke, what do you see has impressed you the most in his progression as a tight end?
To me, it's patience in his route running, but also opportunity. Like, the reality is this league is, when you're a superstar, you kind of make it work anywhere. But even to that degree, if you're in the wrong place, it's just not, feasible for you to put up crazy numbers unless you're really getting, featured. And in Detroit, it seemed like that wasn't really their game plan. And it hasn't ever been. If you think about Detroit in the last 15 years or so, like, when do you ever remember a tight end kind of coming out with 1,000-yard season or something to that effect? And now all of a sudden you go to the Vikings and you've got a guy in Justin Jefferson who's your number one target.
Yeah. And
now you can combine him with a quarterback who, I know everyone likes to make fun of him, but Kirk Cousins to me is played incredible this year. He's thrown for 700 yards, I think, in 2 games.
Yeah.
And it's like he's going to utilize Hawkinson's, abilities, especially over the middle of the field underneath. And you got a guy like Jefferson to stretch the field. Like, they're just going to work hand in hand. And you're going to see that. Plus the fact that I think losing Dalvin Cook, the run game isn't as stout. Where, again, you look in Detroit, Dan Campbell's, first thing is he always wants to run the ball. We've all heard the clips, like, we're going to bite teams in the kneecap. That's not necessarily a style of football you're going to claim you want to do if, you're throwing the ball 40 times a game.
Joined by Luke Wilson, former NFL tight end, great analyst on TSN. And you know what? It's very early in the season, Luke, but when you only play 17 games and, you've already played 2, the numbers will tell us if you're 0-2, I think it's only the Bengals since they went to the 17 format in the playoffs that have been able to come back from the 0-2 deficit. What do you make of their start? How concerned should Bengals fans be, especially with Joe Burrow mentioning that he's tweaked his tweaked his calf again?
I would be more concerned than I was last year for sure. It's kind of two sides of the coin here. And where my head goes with Burrow and the Bengals, and he said it in his interview. He's like, it's tough right now because he missed all of camp. And he's not a 10-year veteran. We all kind of like to think of him as that because he's played so well early. But it's like, you look at him, He's very, very young, still fresh in this league. It's the hardest position to play in the league. He needs those reps, that timing, that rhythm, feeling how the offense is supposed to work, his offensive lineman, all of that comes into it. And that's kind of stuff you gain when you show back up in April. You go through all the phase 1, phase 2, then OTA phase into training camp. A lot of times guys are working out together to some degree in between OTAs and camp. So he said in his interviews, like, things feel a little bit off. And where I get nervous with the calf is not so much the lingering, will it lead to other injuries, but more so so now he's already said he's feeling a little, whatever, out of it when it comes to his rhythm and his timing goes, and he's going to be limited at practice all week. Is he going to be full speed? Giving him just a little other thing to think about instead of being like, okay, I got to take this drop, I got to set protection, read my pre-snap, cues, deliver this ball on time and accurately. It's now like, I got to make sure I don't blow this calf up and I miss 3 or 4 weeks. So that's where I do worry about the Bengals. But on the other side, and what's been strange is that they have so many playmakers. I mean, it starts with Jamar Chase, and then you go to Joe Mixon, you go to Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Like, when you have those 4 guys on the offensive side of the ball, you can win any given Sunday. So that's why I don't think it's full panic mode yet.
As a former Seahawk, I have a slightly off-topic question, but I'm actually really dying to know, what does the Seahawk fans sound like from the sidelines? Like, that's got to just be deafening. We only get to see it through TV
wild.
as civilians. Can you give us any stories about how crazy it is?
I remember, especially when I was younger and we were going on some of those runs, it just seemed like you couldn't hear. Like, our defense would step on the field, and it was deafening. So what was fun was they used to have, and I'm sure they probably still do, haven't been to a game in stadium in a couple of years, but the false start counter. And it was like we led the league, in opposing team false starts. And I would think to myself, like, I get it. You're sitting there, you're facing the Legion of Boom, and you've got our D-line with Mike Bennett and Cliff Averill, sitting right in front of you. You're trying to get every little advantage that you can, and you've got to sit here and get off on the ball, yet you can't hear the snap count. I mean, it's great for us, but I get why guys are jittery over there. And, we played at that era too. We played in a lot of meaningful football games. So, your energy's juiced up a little more. Everybody's all fired up, and it caused a lot of false starts, which changed a lot of games. So, I was watching, they put out a little short documentary on that season. It was like, I think it's called The Season of Boom. And there are 15-minute YouTube episodes. And, every guy in there talks about how, like Marshawn was talking about, like, it's not a joke. Like, our fan advantage was a major advantage in those games.
Oh, God, I would think so. Now, our producer, Brad Slater, who, of course, you know quite well, I honestly, Pete Carroll, when I look at Pete Carroll, I don't think of a 72. Pete Carroll's 72, and he's running down the field. Like, you played with him, or you played for him, I should say, Luke, for a long time. Like, his energy, like, it blows me away. Like, is this guy, what you see, is that what he is all the time? Like, is he always that energetic?
Yes. I was actually telling the story on that same little documentary thing, whatever you want to call it. But one of the moments I'll never forget, I was a rookie. We went 13-3 and won the NFC West and ended up, getting the 1 seed. So we got a bye. And I had tweaked my ankle. So we get the bye in the playoffs. It's like Monday morning or Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. We don't even have an opponent yet, and I'm walking in there early to go get treatment. And treatment's like, I want to say 6:30 in the morning. I'm wiping my eyes. I'm going up the stairs to the cafeteria. Pete's coming down, and I kid you not, he's jittering with excitement. Jittering. And I'm like, it was kind of that moment where I was like, holy smokes, like, I'm 23. This guy wasn't 70 at the time, but you get the point. Like, if he's doing that now, and it was kind of like, in a weird way, a life-changing moment. I'm like, dude, like, why don't I have this energy right now? Like, why don't I have this amount of fun like Pete Carroll? There's no cameras on at 6 a.m. he's just fired up for the day.
Yeah.
So that to me was the moment where I thought was pretty cool. And he is just like the most high energy guy all the time.
Did you find more energy after? Did you find yourself waking up, say, all right, let's go, like let's look at the day with more excitement? Did that happen to you after that?
100%. 100%. I mean, for the rest of my career, I always would think back to that moment and be like, you know who's not tired right now? Pete, and he's got 55 years on me or whatever it is.
You know what? It's true, right? Like it's amazing because I was stunned when Brad told me that. I'm like, what? 72? Like, it's amazing to him. Now, I read a story about you, Luke, that was published many years ago and talked about how superstitious you were. It made me laugh because we were talking about superstitions earlier today on the show with Lorianne Munzer, the two-time Olympian. And, in the story, you talked about, if we had a bad drive, I'd never get water from that trainer again. You're very superstitious from, how it was. So now that you're on with On Right all the time, are you superstitious in your preparation before you go on?
Not at all. And I find what's fun about this stuff with On Right is, you don't really need to, I don't love like making the predictions.
Yeah.
That'd be like earlier in the week. But like when I come on after, it's like I get to interpret the game. And, like last night I was sit there and I wish I could talk more because there's so many little things that go on in a football game that I don't think everybody sees or knows. Last night I was laughing because Wink Martindale dials up a cover zero early on in the game. And he kind of, I wouldn't say guessed Brock Purdy, but almost got the whole offense and weren't prepared for it. It was in the red zone. It was a third down. The Niners settled for a field goal early. Wink goes right back to a similar, it's cover zero, except this time he brought everybody. One pull was before, it was like a zero spy. And, Brock Purdy just executed a perfect throw to Ronnie Bell for TD. Later on in the game, the touchdown, Deebo Samuel, same thing. Cover zero is a little farther out. Purdy was like, yep, I know exactly where I'm going with this ball. I know pressure's going to be coming. So it's like fun to sit there and watch now instead of it from a player standpoint, but from an analyst, be like, how is Brock Purdy having the success that he's having? Instead of like my focus day in and day out was, hey, how am I going to beat this guy or beat that guy? So I have zero superstition with regards to being an analyst.
One last one about Brock Purdy. Like, the guy has not lost a regular season game that he started yet. I think the only loss he had was when he got injured. Like, this guy has come in and it's been a revelation. And Warren Moon told us when we had him on the show about 10 days ago how he thinks there's lots of good quarterbacks, but there's not enough patience in developing. Well, this guy's come in and he's been amazing. What impresses you most, and what is he doing that the other young quarterbacks just haven't figured out yet?
I think, honestly, what's most impressive is his poise in the pocket. Even just last night, it's like, I think it was 3-3 after the first quarter or something like that. Everyone's thinking it might be a blowout. It was generally close, again, for one of the four quarters. And I sat there and looked at him, and there's no panic. There's nothing going on that leads you to believe that he's not going to be poised in there. And like I said, for a guy to sit there, and it was really the throw to Ronnie Bell. It's a simple slide right protection. And he's basically, they're leaving one unblocked. Like they don't have enough to, block up everybody that Wink Martindale's sending. And he sits there, knows exactly where he's going with the ball, throws the ball, turns away, which is what they teach him, so that he avoids a hit. It's a perfectly thrown ball on the exact route that he should have thrown. So it's like these decisions he's making 10 games into his career is like stuff and not just once, but consistently is stuff you would expect to see, in year 3, year 4, and he's able to do it right now.
Yeah, it's really impressive stuff. So I enjoy it. Luke, I really enjoy your analysis. I learn lots when I watch you with On Right. Keep it up. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
That is Luke Wilson, former NFL tight end, of course, on TSN with Jay Honor. And I love his analysis. Like, he breaks it down. He can explain it in a way that you're like, oh, I didn't see that. And to me, that's what the best analysts do, is they pick out some of the little things that people haven't caught on, and that allows you to understand the game more.
Do you think that he knows that there's an actor named Luke Wilson?
I'm guessing he's probably heard that before. Hey,
has anyone told him that joke before, you think?
I'm very happy that you held yourself to a high enough level that you didn't ask?
I
Because
was
I
go-
know I was just
I
like,
was gonna ask, but you were doing such a good job, and you kept like motioning. Do I want to ask a question? I'm like, I'm gonna hit him with the. Do you know there's another Luke
I'm like,
Wilson?
is Owen Wilson your brother?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna ask him that one.
Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
It's the funnier one.
We'll come back. We have 5 questions and more on the Positive Friday edition of the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, coming to you live in the E Well studio.
Edmonton's premium live music and party venue is
On the Rocks.
Check out Bingo Tunes on Monday. Perform on the best stage in town.
May vary.
Well, as the Friday continues on, Gregor, Halley, Wanye, Gretz with you. It's a positive Friday. Spec will be by later. LT, him and Luke Wilson had an audible. They changed spots, so LT will join us in the final hour. Also get a little thoughts from Jay Woodcroft, who spoke after the second session today. Mentioned good news for those who, if you had any concern, Ryan McLeod, they expect him back even before Matthias Ekholm. Ekholm might be out a full week, but nothing. As Ekholm said, he would play through this. It was in the regular season, but they've got some time. Still not until October 11th, right? It's basically just under 3 weeks from when the regular season begins. So, if Ekholm gets into the final few preseason games, I don't think there's much to worry about in that regard. So there you go. Let's get to 5 questions now, brought to you by The Brick, and their semi-annual sale is on right now. Get in. They got great deals in all departments. If you're looking at $1,000 off select big screen TVs, you can get 60% off sofas when you buy the matching love set or chair, and 40% off mattresses. And remember, a lot of this stuff is free delivery, especially the TVs over 50 inches. They'll deliver it for free at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, guys, question number 1. Of the players we think will go on Sunday for the Oilers, we don't know for sure, who will you be the most excited to see hit the ice?
Well, I don't think we know yet who's going to play, but I would say, to me, the most intriguing matchup are how are guys going to perform who are battling for jobs. Like, no offense, if Leon Draisaitl has a great game, if he plays, or Kane or Hyman, that's not going to surprise me, right? Like, I don't think Winnipeg's going to be icing a great lineup based on a road team in the first preseason game. History tells us it's just not going to be that deep. So it's more so Brandon Sutter, Raphael Lavoie, Lane Peterson, if those type of guys play. And they might wait. It might make more sense to wait and have those guys play on Monday in Winnipeg because they'll be up against more NHL caliber opponents.
Coming into camp that doesn't have a lot of hype, and that's Connor McDavid. And I'm wondering, is he going to make the team? Does he have what it takes? These early preseason games, Gregor, I mean, yeah, you light it up. It's not a big deal. But if Connor doesn't light it up in his first few preseason games, they're going to be looking at him. They're going to be talking about his contract. Connor McDavid, I'm excited to watch him play.
I'm with you there. Question number 2. Reports say the Ducks are offering Trevor Zegras a deal with an AAV of $3 to $4 million. What do you think he is worth per year?
Well, look at the guys had 2 60-point seasons already. And Troy Terry, who's just now, he's a UFA, so a little bit different. But if you go by a very simple formula, it's if you score 60 points, you're probably getting close to $6 million. I would say Trevor Zegras at this stage could easily command $6 million. For them to offer him 3 or 4 in a bridge is, well, it's unprecedented. I'm trying to think of a player who had 60 points in consecutive seasons now in the salary cap era, who coming out of his entry level deal only got $3 to $4 million. Right. So, and I wonder how much, I wonder if that's the agent. Well, I don't wonder. I'm very confident that's the agent side leaking something out here. So people in Anaheim are like, what? Right. Because they're frustrated with the fact that they don't have a contract already. So I would say Zegras minimum is $6 million. I could argue that you would sign him for 8 years at $8 million because you fully believe he'll play into the contract.
Fan favorite, right? They're trying to build a new team. They've got long-term guys like Getzlaf and Perry. They're no longer with the team. I don't think they should be fooling around with their long-haired superstar.
So how much money?
$12 million.
Keep them happy.
At least, right? Just if you're going to be scared, just overpay,
Question number 3. We got to keep this
a really good strategy.
That's why I'm the GM.
Scared, just overpay.
Hey, Jeff Jackson was on the show. Maybe he brought it up. It's a strategy. Look it up.
Question number 3. We'll keep the tradition going. The Elks have won 2 in a row. I've asked you guys this question both Friday. They take on the line, or both Fridays. They take on the Lions tonight down at Commonwealth. What's going to happen?
How superstitious do you want to be? Because I've cleverly said they're going to win 100-3 2 weeks in a row, and they took that and they made momentum out of it, and they're 2-0.
A little stitious.
Tradition, boys.
Yeah, they're not superstitious. They're just little.
Ah, it's just a little stitious.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they actually score a point against the BC Lions tonight. So that's nice. Honestly, you know what? I think this could be another entertaining football game. The BC Lions, I'll say this. There's going to be options, and I've said it before. The Elks secondary, get some stick 'em. I don't care what it is. Adams Jr. will throw some interceptions if it's up to you to catch him. That's just a fact, right? Kevin Glenn, I remember that. Kevin Glenn was like, he'll throw 2 interceptions a game. It's up to you to catch him. So I think the secondary, the Elks will get some opportunities. I think this one's going to be a competitive game. The Elks are rolling. How can I pick against them? I'm going to say they get a win tonight, like 28-24.
Another win.
Oh, yeah, they're playing well. They got loads of confidence. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to carry it all the way to the playoffs because it's just too hard because they're playing BC and they're playing Toronto and they're playing Winnipeg. But you know what? They're going to score some points, and their running attack right now is just it's unstoppable between Brown and Trey Ford. So until somebody slows them down in the running game, I'll ride the train.
Yeah, Marcus Lewis, he's been a ball hawk this year. Watch for him tonight, number 26. Question number 4 for you guys. Last day of summer officially. What is your favorite part of autumn as it gets going tomorrow?
This is my favorite part of the hockey season almost, because I don't know if you're familiar, Connor, but we failed to make the playoffs for a solid 10 years in a row. Yeah. But the preseason was like our playoffs because we could get excited. We'd have a great record. Some years we'd lead the league, and we had a lot of momentum going into the regular season. My favorite thing about autumn starting is how starting on Sunday, we're going to convince ourselves on Oilers Twitter, some prospect is the answer. And we're going to ride that for 20 good days.
Favorite part of autumn. Honestly, I just love when all the leaves turn colors and you have that yellow and the red. And so when I drive, there's a road, it's Range Road 220 off of the highway, and you take it to get to the farm, and it's got massive trees on both sides. It's spectacular. And we're going to Canmore for a family wedding next weekend. And I think it's called, they're lurches or larches, one of the two. My apologies if I'm butchering it. But anyway, that's when there's like a 3-week window, and all these trees turn this unbelievable yellow. And that we're going to make that part of it. We're going to do a little hike. So I'm going to say just, the changing of the leaves. I like it when you have all the reds and the yellows and the oranges. Looks awesome.
It's beautiful.
Looking it up, looks like larch. Yeah.
Larch.
Sounds
okay.
very nice.
There you go.
That'll be beautiful. Final question for you guys today. Hypothetical Friday. If you could learn any skill in the world without even having to try, what would you pick?
I would love to gain Gregor's appreciation for leaves because he seems very happy and at peace when he's driving around. And I rarely feel that type of peace on a day-to-day basis. So the skill I would like to acquire is your love of leaves.
Oh, okay. That's a really good question. Because there's a lot of skill that I don't have.
And you already love leaves.
So yeah, I have that one. It's a skill that I can turn into anything other than happiness, but which is a good skill to have. I will say I would like the skill of knowing how to do all sorts of photoshopping, technical stuff, coding all at once without having to spend all the time to learn it. Because I'm very inefficient at that. Connor, what about you?
Piano.
Oh,
I wish I could play the piano.
That's a good answer.
It'd be so cool
It's a
at
really
parties.
good answer. Why wouldn't I said like guitar and you just play the guitar and sing? It's true because like that's a party you sit down, people come over and you're strumming the guitar and all of a sudden you're singing. Yeah, that'd be great. It's a really good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would just play everywhere. Go to a piano bar, like, yeah, let me dabble here.
You just show up, you'd walk in and people would be like, hey, do you guys mind if I tickle the ivory? What? Yeah, I'm going to try to tickle the ivory. And then all of a sudden you're over there and the next thing you know, you're just crushing it.
Billy Joel for everybody.
Oh,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I like that.
I'd go.
That might be one of your best answers ever to a 5 questions hypothetical question.
Well, my second one was like Grill Master, but I went with piano. So I felt like those were 2 quality
like
answers.
Diamond Teeth Grill Master? What do you think?
Ooh, like Paul Wall back in the day?
Exactly.
No,
currently.
I was thinking like barbecue.
Oh, cooking.
Yeah,
of course.
Smoker and all that.
Yeah. Makes way more sense.
Got a lot of texts coming in. Brian, I want to do taxes like a pro. Brian, I feel you, but I also feel like you shot really low on what you'd want to be an expert at, because guess what? You can get like any of the tax places to do it, and it's like $200.
Wesley Snipes didn't do his taxes for like a decade, and he only went to jail for like 4 years. What do you need to do taxes for?
Oh, I like that. I want to be taxes like a pro.
Like Revenue Canada can't hear you when you text us this sort of
Gosh,
thing.
That is awesome.
It's not going to save you.
What are you doing right now? Just your taxes. Do you want your taxes done?
I'm doing next year's.
Like a pro.
Preemptively filing 11 months early.
Oh, yeah. Well, you wouldn't even have to. If you could do it like a pro, you'd probably just wait till the last minute. Right?
That's pro.
Look at all those write-offs. Wow.
Exactly. Do you even know what a write-off is? Yeah, you write it off. Hey, Connor, if you want piano lessons virtually or in person, let me know. I'll make it happen from Maple Scoop.
But I just want to learn without having to try.
Like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Just want it loaded into your brain. Can you do that, Maple Scoop?
Maybe Maple Scoop can do that.
We don't have time to learn. We need it directly inserted into our brain cortex.
Yeah. Basically, you want AI to do it for you.
Precisely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
If you could learn immediately, what is it?
Yes.
It's your contest.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys, if I could learn what my wife was thinking, that would be great. Doug.
I don't think you'd want to know, Doug. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Exactly. Sometimes that might come back to haunt you. What?
I think knowing what other people are thinking would be one of the worst superpowers you could get because it's not good.
Mel Gibson lived through it, right? What do women want? He didn't want it at the end.
Have you heard what happened to him?
Mel? Yeah. I'm talking about the character.
You're holding up Mel Gibson as an everything worked out story?
The movie. I didn't say it worked out.
Oh,
for him.
in the movie.
In the movie, what women want.
Of course.
Come on.
Well, you said have you seen Mel Gibson?
No, yeah, in the movie, what women want. That's what I was talking about. No. So let's get to the comment. We'll come back. Spec will join us, Lowetide and more on Positive Friday edition of the Gregor Show and myplayalberta.ca. Here's Sports 1440 update brought to you by Edmonton Kubota, baby. They are so excited right now. They're clearing it out. 0% financing for 84 months on all their compact BX tractors. Shop online at edmontonkubota.com.
It's time for a Sports 1440 update.
Elks looking to make it 3 straight there. One other game tonight just about to get going out in Ottawa. Rough Riders Red Blacks currently scoreless. Major League Baseball, the Jays in action right now. They trail the Rays 1-0. That's in the midway through the second. Elsewhere, Marlins, Brewers, Pirates, Reds, both scoreless, as are the Braves and Nationals. Later tonight, Yankees take on the Diamondbacks, the Mets in Philadelphia. Guardians host the Orioles, the White Sox take on the Red Sox, Rangers hosting the Mariners for a big series in the wild card race. Padres take on the Cards, and the Dodgers hosting the San Francisco Giants. One final. Cubbies knocked off the Rockies 6-0. The San Francisco 49ers announced today that they've signed general manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan to a multi-year contract extension. Lynch and Shanahan joined the organization back in 2017 and have led the team to 3 postseason appearances and 1 Super Bowl appearance. Fantasy update for you. Austin Eckler, Anthony Richardson, Justice Hill, Bryce Young all ruled out this weekend with injuries. The Edmonton Oil Kings are in Red Deer tonight, kicking off their season, taking on the Rebels. Rematch tomorrow down at the Ice District. Puck drop 7 o'clock in that one. And the Golden Bears out in Vancouver taking on UBC. That's a 7 o'clock start. In the AJ at Spruce Grove in Olds tonight. Tomorrow they'll host Olds. That one starting at 7 in Sherwood Park on the road. They're in Brooks tonight. Then Drum Heller on Saturday. And you've got the Huskies taking on the Hilltop Sunday JP Bowl, 1 o'clock kickoff. And tomorrow night at 7, the Wildcats in Winnipeg taking on the Rifles. Coming up in hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Sportsnet's Mark Spector and Alan Mitchell from the Lowdown with Lowetide.
This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Positive Friday rolls along. I love it. Hey, Gregor, I just got northwest of Edson setting up hunting camp. It's beautiful. Leaves are turning. Favorite time of year. Munching data listening to you guys. Love it. Love it. It is a good time of year, my man. Good time. Put your name on the next text, then we know who you are. I like it. Got lots of people. You know what? When I look at the text line, there's lots of names. You know, Rod and Mark and Big Mac and Lance and Ed and Harry and Ranch Hand. See them all. I like it. Chris and Victoria. It's fantastic. So it's good that you kind of feel like, and like I said, I don't know if that's her name or not, but at least it's better than nobody. So put it on there. Welcome back to the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. We just did our wager for $20. We do it every day for PlayAlberta.ca. And at the end of the month, hopefully we're up and everything we are up, we donate to Kids Sport. And so we always do a parlay with three picks, sometimes a prop bet, some other stuff. But we went with the Elks were plus 307. So I went with, taking the underdog, took the Stamps and the Seahawks, went with an all football, all West. So Elks, Stamps, and Seahawks. The Elks, hey, obviously I get why they're the underdog. They haven't scored a point against BC this year. It makes sense, but they're rolling. That was just too good odds not to try it. Had to for 20 bones. So there you go. Let's get now to the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. They are hiring. If you want to work for a great company with great benefits, huge sports fans, just know that your owner struggles with tape-to-tape passes, more of a off the plexiglass and out to Ransan with. But other than that, it's a great place. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction as Mark Spector from Rogers Sportsnet joins us once again. Spec, I see you're on the road. That is nice. In the passenger seat, being very safe. So that's great. I guess a few things here for, Jay Woodcroft right from the get-go has come in. He's got his team in two camps, and camp one is basically all the guys I think who have a chance to make the NHL roster. Obviously, McLeod and Ekholm aren't on the ice yet, but it just seems like, there's not a lot of intermixing. Maybe that will change, but am I reading too much in it? Just kind of this fits with their mantra of, hey, let's get serious right from the get-go. I think you're muted, buddy. I think you muted yourself.
How about that?
There you go.
There you go. I think what's going to happen here, what generally happens is some younger guy has a real good preseason game, and they reward him by giving him a couple of, a skate with the big boys, right?
Yeah.
So, the rosters won't be completely stagnant. They'll be a little bit fluid, but who's kidding who? We know what the team is here. And even the guys battling for the only few open spots are in that top group pretty much. So, Sutter's in that group, and Gagne's not around. Peterson's in that group, so even the guys on the fringes they're in the big group, and both the goalies are in the big group. Who are we kidding? There's only a couple jobs available here. Everybody knows it. So why not just deal with reality, Jay?
Yeah, no, that's fair, right? You wonder, does it hurt your young guys, or maybe it just shows you, hey, if you want to get into the main group, you better show up. Like, we know that some of those guys are going to play on Sunday and some of them are going to play on Monday. And that's going to be like Raphael Lavoie, man, whichever game he plays, who knows, maybe he plays both, although I'd be surprised early on. But, he's got to make a big impression because he's kind of starting on the fifth line of the main group. I think if you're a guy like Xavier Bourgault who just wants to have a good camp impression, you got to do something. Marcus Niemelainen is a guy. And then obviously Peterson and Sutter. I wonder, Spec, if you're Jay Woodcroft, and, your Sutter gets to practice against McDavid and Draisaitl, which is key because those are two pretty good players, and, Kane and Hyman and et cetera. But would you save Sutter for the Monday game and let him go into Winnipeg where he's more likely to face Connor and Scheifele?
I think I want to talk to Brandon Sutter. Brandon Sutter hasn't played a game for 2 years.
Okay.
Right? He hasn't played a game for 2 years. So I get what you're saying. I don't care what Brandon Sutter looks like against a bunch of guys that aren't going to be at camp 4 days from now. That doesn't matter to me. He may want that game just to play his first game in 2 years. You know, if he said to me, man, can you give me that first game because I could use it, he's playing. Like, I'm doing whatever I can for Brandon Sutter to get his game together and show me what he's got. I don't want to put him in a position where he's not going to be able to show me that. So I guess I defer to the player. He's a veteran guy. He's 34 years old.
34.
He knows what he needs, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. What about Lane Peterson then?
Oh, he's different. He's a young guy who's trying to make the team. He plays when I tell him to play. Because he doesn't have any of that going on. Like, this guy's been in the NHL. Same with Adam Ernie. He'll play when it works for, if I'm the Ken Holland and Woodcroft making these lineups, I probably aren't asking those guys quite the same. So, hey, that's just the way hockey works, man. At some point, Adam Ernie, he's just happy to be here and play. I don't think he's telling anyone when to play him. He'll play when told, I would suggest, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think he'll just be happy once you get in as many games as possible. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys each play 5 preseason games. Not at all. So,
yeah, maybe.
Mark Spector joins us. Jay Woodcroft giving the update on Ryan McLeod. Thinks he'll be back sooner than Ekholm, and Ekholm is not going to be out that long, maybe a week from what he says. And it's preseason training camp. There's no need to rush it at all. But I do want to get to a guy who's technically in the organization, but not really, and Steve Staios, because now the ownership group at Ottawa is official. Andlauer's in. At what point do you think they make this announcement, and why do you think it hasn't happened already that the Oilers have mentioned that Steve's no longer? Because you go on their website, you can't find him anywhere.
This is the not so dirty little secret here in the Oilers organization. Everybody knows and has known all summer that Steve Staios is going to end up working with Andlauer when Andlauer takes over. So Andlauer didn't officially take over till yesterday. That was the day they announced it. Now we can probably bring some of this stuff above board. Andlauer now needs to figure out how am I hiring Steve Staios? What am I doing with him? Like, am I bringing him in? Either there's two things here. Either one, I'm moving Dorian right out and I want Steve Staios to be my GM. I don't think that will happen. That's not what I think will happen. I think it's too late in the season. I think you keep Dorian there. Now I want to bring Steve Staios in for sure, Jay, but I don't want to make it look like I'm bringing him in to just perch to take Dorian's job. I don't think that's fair either, right?
Yeah.
You know what? I've just bought a team. I got my GM. I can't just put him in that position right away. That's not fair. So Andlauer's got to figure out a position to bring in Steve Staios, and he will, and it will be in concert. You'll be holding on to your cell phone, and you'll get a notice from the Ottawa Senators that they've hired Steve Staios to, whatever its position is, president of hockey operations or something. And 5 seconds later, you'll get the email from the Oilers. They will do this in concert, and they'll say, thanks, Steve. Nice having you. You've been a great guy. But it's a done deal, pal. He's not working for the Oilers anymore. He is working for the Senators.
Mark Spector joins us from Rogers Sportsnet. Spec, I always like to ask you about your favorite sport, baseball. You've got the Jays. They're taking on Tampa. They're battling with Seattle and Texas, who are actually going head-to-head this weekend. So there's, technically you won't lose ground even to a team if you lose tonight, because one of them is going to lose for sure. What do you make of the Jays' chances, and how much of it hinges on Guerrero in your eyes?
Well, it can't hinge on Guerrero because he hasn't helped you enough this year to say, it's not like the Oilers if they would lose a McDavid who's been consistently productive all the way along. Guerrero hasn't helped them that much this year. Of late, he got a little bit hot, but for me, it's not an excuse to say, oh, Guerrero's not in my lineup, I can't win. Well, he hasn't. What did he have 2 weeks ago? He had 21 home runs. So, listen, at some point, every team has to, I don't know what our format is here, if I can use the term nut up, but that's what the Jays have to do. You can give me all the history on Tampa and the Rays, and how, the Rays have been Jay killers for a long time. That's fine. I don't care about the history anymore. Is there 9 games left? 10 games left?
Yeah, they have 9.
I think they got 9, 6 against Tampa, 3 against the Yankees. It's time to nut up and win. You got to beat Tampa at least half the time here. If you think you're a playoff team, then act like a playoff team. And the schedule maker has it in your favor because your opponents are playing against each other. It's all set up for you. So you don't have Guerrero right now. Tough luck. Figure it out. Win some games here. I'm not saying you win every game, but you know what? Try to win your 2 out of 3. And if you're a playoff team, you can't wait till the playoffs, Jay, to start playing like one. You got to start playing like one now.
No, that's fair. I am surprised, like people like Guerrero, I think the bar is pretty high for him because he still leads the Jays in home runs with 24. He leads them in RBIs with 91, which is 22 more than anyone else in their team. Now, I know that, his averages, it was only 264, and even his OPS isn't where they wanted it, 781 or 780, whatever it is. But I still think it's a big void in their lineup, even though he struggled to his standards this year. And they're going to need, they're going to have a lot of other guys step up, or their pitchers are going to have to be unbelievable against Tampa Bay for them to win even 3 out of 6.
And that's fair. Everything you just said there is fair. Whether or not he's had the season you want him to have, he's still their big guy, right? He's still their big guy. So I get that. That's fair. But you know what? It's not this time of year. It's not for excuses, man. It's time to win. Everybody's got somebody hurt. Everybody's got something they didn't like that happened to their team. It's time to go. It's time to win. Let's go here.
Spec, have a good weekend. Quickly, Elks, Lions tonight. What's your gut tell you about the surging green and gold?
Well, I'm first of all, I throw absolutely in the garbage the stats of what happened in the last 2 games against BC. Those were earlier in the season when the Elks couldn't find their backside with both hands. So it means nothing to me. They'll score points. And is BC a better team? Yeah, BC's a better team. Do the Elks have every chance to win a football game tonight? I don't know. Every time I watch Trey Ford play, pal, looks like they have a chance to me. Don't you?
Oh, yeah, he's pretty excited. And then Brown and their offensive line, they're virtually unstoppable running the ball right now. So it'll be entertaining. So
they will. Awesome. They're winning. Football better than I know football. And the deal is, you can't win if you can't win the trenches. And I've watched this Elks team in the last 4 or 5 games win in the trenches. They're getting more sacks than the other guys, and their running game is better than the other guys, and their running game has bigger hole. The runner, Kevin Brown, has bigger holes to run through than the other guys. You win the trenches, you win the football game, and right now that's where they're winning it.
Should be fun, Spec. Have a great weekend.
All right, man.
That's Mark Spector from Rogers Sportsnet. When we return, that was Spec Report brought to you by GS Construction. We'll get to the oil report with Alan Mitchell, a.k.a. Lowetide, and more on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. You can get involved. Text this in a Jiffy Lube inbox, 833-401-1440. And right now, stop in, get a full synthetic Pennzoil oil change at Jiffy Lube, and you will get a $20 digital gift card for any of 30 local vendors. You get to pick which one you want. Support local, jiffylubeservice.ca.
PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated gambling website, features a variety of responsible gambling tools such as a time clock, deposit limits, and more. Remember, if you gamble, use your game sense. Visit GameSense
Can't wait for Tuesday. Maybe we'll get Struts to voice a new Christensen commercial. Oh, so good. So good. Oh, bad boy somewhere. I love it. Welcome back to, and hey, guess what? You'll see Sports 1440. We got the new mic flashes. I'm showing it right now on the old YouTube. If you want to see it, it's right there. It's looking pretty sharp. Do you see that? Ooh, yes. Look at that bad boy. I like it. I like it a lot. I got to figure out how to put it into the middle of the screen. Oh, there we go. There we go. Do. Perfect. Nice.
What's the 1440 mean, Uncle Gregor?
That's the signal on the AM dial.
And what's the sports mean?
It's self-explanatory.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice. So it's
looks good.
It's very slick. I like it. It's nice. So great work. Excited for it. Now let's get to the oil report brought to you by Volvo of Edmonton, where hey, stop in this weekend. If you're in the market for a vehicle, you're looking to shop, whether you want a new vehicle, a demo, or certified pre-owned Volvo, 1.49% finance is where you can get it. And the best part about dealing with Volvo is the service that you'll have. You'll get a great vehicle, sure. There's lots of great vehicles, but you get unbelievable service. And that's what keeps people coming back to Canada's number one Volvo dealership, Volvo of Edmonton, as we welcome in to the show, Wanye Gretz's uncle, Uncle Lowetide, a.k.a. Alan Mitchell, host of Noon to 2 here on Sports 1440. LT, how you doing?
I'm very well. I just want to make sure this uncle thing doesn't mean I owe him any money, does it?
No, I'm calling Gregor uncle too. It's all in the family at 1440 today.
Okay, well, that's good.
Everyone's related.
Nothing. I don't coach any baseball. I don't want anybody coming to my house. Other than that, I'm your uncle.
Just like my real uncle.
Yeah. Al, did you ever coach baseball?
No, I never did. I never soccer a little bit, but never baseball, which is my favorite sport to play.
Yes.
And I love baseball, but I never coached it.
Oh, okay. All right. I know one thing that you love is analytics, and I say that because you respect analytics, like you respect the eye test equally. Michael Barcatti, I've had lots of conversations with him over the years. Obviously, you've had way more, I think, than I have, for sure. He comes in now. What's unique about this contract with him is him and the Oilers have been discussing this for quite some time, and now it finally came to fruition.
Yeah, I think what in the life of a hockey team, especially now, each regime, and obviously Jeff Jackson's regime is just starting, has a different value on analytics, and I think in a lot of ways, this particular Jackson era is going to be somewhat similar to the Craig McTavish era. Mac T really valued analytics, and Barcatti would have worked with him for a time. And the difference is, Jason, that the data that they get now is just overwhelming. Back in the day, what you see publicly and what the players had were, I don't think, that different. But now they get reams of information, and finding the gem there. Jeff Jackson was talking with you about, contracts and that sort of thing. There's a lot that will go into what's going to happen with Barcatti that wasn't available when he first worked with the Oilers about a decade ago. And that's the exciting part, because I do believe that the teams are looking for small edges. The Oilers were already doing it. The trade for Clean Costin a year ago had analytics all over it. So it's not like it's a revolution, but Barcatti is a big brain, and he's a great get. And I think he's the guy who's going to build a team that's going to be able to not just grab all the data and parse it, but then really find the true gems in there. And that's a hard thing to do. Some teams still aren't looking, and others are finding a lot of them and making good bets. Sometimes they don't work out, but often they do.
I think it's important what you say there. The Oilers have had an analytics team. It's maybe not as in depth as people would have liked, but there's been one in place, Clean Cost, and there's been stuff on some other ones they've looked at. And the thing is, like you said, hey, guess what? Some analytics moves are going to work out, some aren't. Just like the eye test moves, some are going to work, some aren't. You try to get as much information. The truth is, there's no GM that every trade he makes works. It's impossible. There's no scout I know that everybody he scouts works out. You just want to try to, if you can improve your chances by 1%, 2%, 3%, then that's obviously what they're going to do. I know Jeff Jackson talked about looking at things, working with the coaches as far as potential, like, game planning, system play on what the opposition is doing as much. And because, there's some talk about the orders, Evander Kane hinted that they got a little bit difference in the neutral zone and defensive zone. But it's also important to point out that it's not like they won or run just one straight defensive zone coverage and that's all they do, right? Like there's different coverages at different times in different situations of the game.
Sure, and it's also true that no matter what you run, it comes down to execution. And I've been arguing with people all summer, mostly because I was argumentative all summer. But there was the play White Cloud scored on where Nurse followed his guy to the top of the circle, and it was Fogle, I think, who didn't check down, and people were arguing about that. The Nurse was out of position, but my point is, unless you know what they're doing, unless you know what the forwards and defensemen were doing, you're just kind of pointing fingers. There are mistakes that are made by a team, and you want to cut down on those. But the idea that they're going to play one system all year and become extremely predictable just isn't reasonable. They're going to change things up, and the expectation is players are going to be able to deliver on those things. And in some cases, it's not going to happen. Mistakes are part of the game. And I think that from a fan point of view, a little knowledge is very dangerous, where you can just start hammering players when really you may not know the defensive alignment and you may not know the assignment of the specific player that you're yelling at.
Who's your patented LT player to watch for the preseason? Who are we watching?
Well, I really just think that Broberg is the guy, just because if he pops or in any way is able to take on bigger minutes, like maybe even just part-time top four, it just changes the entire look of the team. They have 7. One thing I'll give Holland credit for, and I don't think he gets a lot of credit for it, is this is a bigger defense, guys.
Oh, it's huge.
Broberg is not a small man, and Desharnais is big and filthy. And I know some of those guys were drafted before Holland got there, but he sent away some of the smaller guys, and they're gigantic. So if like Ceci could be key, Broberg could be key. I'll say Broberg because I think that he's even though he's not a rookie anymore, he's got a little miles to go. But if he can step in and play capably with that big frame of his and the way he can scoot, he could make a difference.
And I'm going to copy what you think and say Broberg because he's going to turn the corner.
Well, amen to that.
There it is.
You never know, right? You never know, but I think he's ready, and he reminds me of his career progression. Reminds me a lot of Klefbom.
Yeah,
and Klefbom spiked right around this time, maybe a little earlier, but it's not too late for Broberg. I think people are down on him because betting against the Oilers has been good for business for 15 years, but I think Broberg's a player.
We could use a new Klefbom around here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I agree with you, Alan. Broberg's so young still in his development, and I get that other forwards around him. And on the record, I wanted Matt Boldy at that pick, but it doesn't mean that I don't think Broberg can be a decent player. And I think that Broberg in 5 years, people might reevaluate what they think today, because drafting, it's never a sprint. So far, has he been as good as some of the other players that were taken after him? No, but that doesn't mean he won't work out and turn into a very good defenseman. I'm curious to kind of see how his increased strength will help him, because his skating's always been good, right? To me, and I know they talked about it. He mentioned at the end of the last year, he needed to get better. And I was watching up until he got hurt, but even in those captain skates, he was spending time after practice with Matthias Ekholm, and they were working on defending guys coming out of the corner. And a lot of it was angles, right? Not just pure brute strength, which of course you need at times. And so to me, that's what I'll be watching for from Broberg, is how is he defending guys when they get in those one-on-one battles? Because at times I felt that was an area of weakness just because he wasn't physically strong enough yet.
Yeah. And I think, your point about the draft is well taken. I think that Boldy would have been a really strong choice, and that's something that the analytics department can help with too. Sometimes I think Holland got here and realized that they were going to need some defensemen and drafted Broberg maybe out of place a little bit, and it's gone now. It's fine. You organizations do that. I think Broberg will cash, but the thing to remember with Broberg is we still don't know what he is. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Klefbom and score 35 points, but he does have some offensive acumen that hasn't showed up yet, and he's been working on the defensive side. And as you say, like Desharnais is huge. You've got to pack a lunch to get by him because even if you're fast, his wingspan is so long that it's hard to get by him even if you're fast. Now, if he's flat-footed, you can, but if he's going in the right direction, you're going to have a hard time beating him. Broberg's a different player. He can actually skate with players, and that's actually more efficient. I think Broberg, if he continues to develop, he's going to be a top 4 guy for a long time. And the great point is the price point for him won't be high for at least a couple more years.
Al, one last one for you. The Edmonton Elks taking on the BC Lions tonight. Trey Ford has become must-watch TV. Green and gold fans, we've seen the crowds. They're growing. They're excited about their team. Obviously, Brown, the O-line as well, but a lot of it's about Trey Ford. Now they got the BC Lions, who are probably the 3rd best team in the league right now. Pretty solid team that shut them out twice, and I know that has nothing to do with Trey Ford because he didn't play in those games, and they didn't have the OC, Jarius Jackson, but what do you make? Like tonight to me is a pretty good measuring stick to see where the Elks are at because, BC's just on a different level and they played close to Winnipeg. So I give them credit. And I'm curious to see how they'll play against the Lions tonight.
Yeah, I think you're right. I thought Rough Riders are a good team. They're not a great team, and right now the Elks have a lot of things going well, and they needed a quarterback, and my God, they got a guy, and Ford just changes everything. You were mentioning last week about how much better they are running, no matter who's running, and it all opened up when Ford came in, and I'll be interested in seeing if they can, make BC pay for that, because when Ford gets into the open field, he can make you miss, and then you have to add another guy into that area, into the box, or definitely in the linebacker position. And if that happens, sometimes you can break a running back for a good run too. So I think Ford is the CFL hasn't figured out how to defend him yet, and that benefits the Elks in a big way. And I think the Lions are going to win tonight. I'll tell you that. But it's a lot closer because of Trey Ford than it would have been in the first 9 weeks. And if they do win, nobody should be surprised.
Al, have a great weekend. We will chat with you on Lundy.
All right. Uncle Al signing out, not paying for a thing.
Huzzah.
There you go. Nice. I like it. Al Mitchell, a.k.a. Lowetide, host noon to 2 here on Sports 1440. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Wanye, Gretz with you. Text lines humming in. Can always get involved in the text. Of course, in our Jiffy Lube inbox as well. Email us, Gregor, Sports 1440, Connor at Sports 1440, or the trusty text line, 833-401-1440. We'll come back, wrap things up. Conman's got some fantasy tips for the weekend and more.
For a limited time at McDonald's, enjoy the tasty breakfast trio. Your choice of sausage or chicken McMuffin or McGriddles with a hash brown and a small premium roast coffee for $5 plus tax. Available before 11 a.m. at participating McDonald's restaurants in Canada. For a limited time at McDonald's, enjoy the tasty breakfast trio. Your choice of sausage or
Pause of Friday continues on. Jason Gregor alongside Connor Halley. Wanye Gretz. Wanye Gretz presented by Action Electrical, family-run business for over 50 years. They just celebrated their 50th year in business. They keep expanding, and now they have a whole new solar division. If you're looking at solar for residential or commercial, it's going to save you a lot of money. Contact actionelectrical.net as Wanye, week 2 or 3? Three on the
like
on
the NFL
show.
season.
Yeah. You're haven't got an injury yet.
No.
So that's exciting. And realistically, you asked is there a player that you're very curious to watch?
Well, I didn't want to be divisive earlier when I said Connor McDavid. I feel like I split the room.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be controversial. I think he's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
But now LT saying Broberg is the new Clefbaum, which I've specifically said Broberg isn't the new Clefbaum. But now if Lowetide says he is, I'm changing my mood. I'm flipping the script.
Why did you think he wasn't the new Clefbaum?
Because I said just because he's sexy and Swedish doesn't make him the new Clefbaum. But if Lowetide says...
It's very fair. Well, it is... it's funny because, there's a Swedish guy comes in, everyone's like, well, he's going to be like this other Swedish guy. I'm like, well, you don't see the Canadian player. Well, he's going to be the next Canadian guy. I do find it funny sometimes when people automatically make that connection. I see it in one sense, but like Broberg and Clefbaum, I think Clefbaum was, he was a physically different type of player than Broberg. I think Broberg's actually a better skater than Oscar Clefbaum was. Not that Clefbaum was a bad skater by any stretch, but I think Broberg's a smoother skater. But Clefbaum was stronger. He's a little bit more physical, right? And he wasn't it's not like he's Larson, but and he's young. Like Clefbaum didn't come over for a few years, which is smart, right? To me, this rushing players, it's so ridiculous even now. Like Broberg is still not even 5 years past his draft class. Like pump the brakes. And the difference now, when Oscar Clefbaum came in, just like when Darnell Nurse came in, those guys were gifted spots in the top 4.
The cupboard was bare.
They had nothing, right? Like the fact that Broberg's got to fight for his ice time is a good thing. And it doesn't mean he's not ready yet, right? Like some of these other guys are on bad teams. That's why, they're getting to play more. Now there's the odd guy that's played better on a good team, and that's fair. But I think people have to look at the situation, and it's very different now for a Broberg coming in to make a team than it was for Clefbaum and Nurse and heck, Draisaitl and all these other guys, just because Kyler Yamamoto, Holloway comes in. There's Evander Kane. There's Zach Hyman. There's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. There's all these. Look at Yamamoto. Look at the wingers Yamamoto had to beat out. Jesse Puljujärvi on the right side. That was it, right? So it's people have to understand that when you try to compare young guys, now that the organization's good, it's harder to make the team and it's harder to make an impact.
Enjoy. We're a good team now. People can't just walk in off the street with a first-round draft pick in their back pocket and make the team.
Yeah, which is long overdue. I'll tell you that. Long overdue. Let's get to the comment. Little fantasy report brought to you by Next Gen Transportation. Heavy haul transport provider, 100% locally owned and operated, and proud partner of the MyShack group of companies. The con man, of course, NFL action on Sunday. You look at a few. I guess the no-brainer here has to be the running back in Cleveland. What are you expecting for Mr. Chubb's replacement?
Well, I mean, it has been something that we've talked about all week on Fantasy Frenzy, of course. So when Chubb went down, I think a lot of people were rushing to that waiver wire. Who's the backup? Who's it going to be? Jerome Ford, of course, is going to get the majority of the carries there. They did sign Kareem Hunt. We know he's got the history with Cleveland. He knows the offense. I don't think he's game shape. So I'm a little bit skeptical that Kareem Hunt's going to be a guy you're going to want to start in your lineup. But Jerome Ford, as a replacement, he looked good last week. I did have a big run that he busted. That obviously helped the statistics, put him over 100 yards on the game, but he's going to be key. They need to get that running game going. That's the best way to help out Deshaun Watson in the passing game. And they're taking on the Tennessee Titans, who, it's not going to be easy to run against the Titans by any means. They're very well coached. They've got some players, Jeffrey Simmons up front there. That's going to slow down the run game. But for Ford, I mean, he's going to get his opportunities. He's going to get his carries. I think he is a guy you definitely want to start in this week and probably the next couple of weeks. You can probably lock that in because I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to be coming in there taking too many carries away.
You get to week 3, it's still really early, and we were talking about tight ends. There's not a lot of tight ends that have made significant impacts, so I'm not sure you can necessarily find one. What about Watson getting closer in Green Bay? What kind of impact, or do you think he's still? I don't even know. Is he going to play? What are you hearing? What do you think?
Well, I haven't seen anything for him. If you want to talk about tight ends to start this week, though, Gregor, and you're going to say I'm just saying it because it's against the Chargers, but Hawkinson with the Vikings, I mean, I think he's going to be someone who's going to have a big game. We actually had someone text in, am I crazy to start Addison, Hawkinson, and Madison against the Chargers? 3 players on one team. I said no. 2 out of 3 isn't crazy. Madison, you might want to watch out for, but Addison and Hawkinson, they could definitely do some damage. For the Green Bay Packers and Christian Watson, I guess we'll wait and see. I don't think he's been officially ruled out yet. Okay. There was a list of players put out that we can rule out. Watson's not there yet. So, watch it, obviously. And if you don't go with him, you can always look at Romeo Doubs, a second-year player who we thought might have a little bit more of an impact last year. I think he could be an option with Jordan Love there in Green Bay. But make sure you're watching that waiver wire right up till Sunday morning. The insiders, Schefter, Rappaport, do a great job of keeping you updated, but I'd keep watching for that one. Christian Watson, a guy who's got good speed, can stretch the field. If he's out there and close to 100%, I think he's a guy you definitely want to consider if you're in a deeper league.
100%. Con man, have a great weekend. Quickly, prediction tonight. Elks, Lions.
I'll say, got to go with a weird score here. 29-24 Elks.
Why weird score? You think, so there's a rouge coming in? I think
there's some rouges in our future.
Ooh, a few rouges.
Friday night rouges.
I wonder what the crowd's going to be like tonight. Might be 30 plus again.
Great night for football.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful night.
Beautiful night. And somebody was texting that they think there's like is it like a rib tasting contest going on?
Chili.
I
think
delicious.
It's chili.
A chili tasting
Fantastic.
contest so that's on the west side?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So you want to pack 30,000 of your closest friends and do a chili eating contest. I see.
Hey, it's outside, buddy.
Wow.
That's the place to have a chili eating contest.
I don't know if there's enough outside
indoors.
in the world for 30,000 chili fans.
Depends. Maybe somebody's got a special non-tooting type of chili. We'll see. Before we go, there is one thing I'd like to mention. You can Google it. Google Noah's Law. Okay? They're trying to get it passed in the House of Commons. It's a horrible story if anybody hasn't heard about it. Noah's Law came from Cody McConnell and his family after his fiance, Mikhail Bush, and their 16-month-old son, Noah, were murdered inside their Hinton apartment. Turned out it was their neighbor, who was somebody that had the police knew about. He was a convicted person before, but they didn't tell anybody. And when Cody left home, when he came back, and unfortunately, his wife, not only was she murdered, she was raped, and then his son was killed. It's an awful story. And so they're just trying to pass a law that says people like that, you should be sent a note to your neighbors so you know they're there. And it's something to look at. Look up Noah's Law, and they need people to sign the petition. So if you can, if it's something that interests you, I think it's worthwhile. I did put it up on my Twitter page. Just something food for thought on a Positive Friday. And we said a lot of hope and prayers for that family, because that would be something just horrible to have to endure. Be safe, everyone. Please don't drink and drive this weekend. Get home safe. Another great week on Sports 1440. We had the big announcement. Fox Sports is coming on all weekends, and 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. on weeknights. We're getting closer and closer to being sports 24/7, which is what we said we'd do. And so another step towards that. We appreciate it. Let's get to Connor Halley and our final Sports 1440 update of the week, brought to you by Ewell. From LED lighting audits and retrofits to design, build, distribution system, Ewell service can give you the edge you need to impress your clients. EWEL.ca. Good night. Be safe. Here's Connor Halley.
It's time for a Sports 1440 update.
Well, right now, out in Ottawa, Saskatchewan leading the Red Blacks 13-7 ounce in the second quarter. Tomorrow, you got Montreal taking on the Stampeders, and the Argos hosting the Tiger Cats. Major League Baseball Jays in action tonight. Right now, they trail the Rays 1-0. That's in the top of the sixth. Elsewhere, Brewers beating up on the Marlins 12-0 in the fourth. Yankees lead the Diamondbacks 3-0. The Nationals trail the Braves 4-0 in the third. And the bottom of the third in Philadelphia, the Mets up on the Phillies 1-0 later tonight. Big series kicks off. Rangers taking on the Mariners. Earlier today, the Cubbies blanked the Rockies 6-0. San Francisco 49ers announcing today that they've extended GM John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan with multi-year extensions. Lynch and Shanahan joined the organization back in 2017. They've been to the playoffs 3 times with 1 Super Bowl appearance. The Oil Kings are down in red here, taking on the Rebels tonight. You got the rematch tomorrow down at the Ice District. That one starts at 7. Golden Bears football at 7. They're in Vancouver taking on UBC. And in the AJ, Spruce Groves and Olds tonight, tomorrow. They will host Olds at 7 o'clock at the Grant Pier Arena. Sherwood Park's in Brooks. And then tomorrow they're in Drum Heller. And a little football. The Huskies will take on the Hilltops this Sunday, 1 o'clock at the JP Bowl. And the Wildcats are in Winnipeg taking on the Rifles. We're done for the night. Carry us back Monday morning, 7 a.m.
This has been